The exact moment I hit send, I knew my life was over. Not the dramatic movie-style over, where the heroine gets a second chance and learns a valuable lesson. No, this was the ugly real-world kind of over. The kind where you accidentally text your brutally cold, notoriously ruthless billionaire boss a message that begins with, "Nicholas Morgan is such an insufferable ice king. I swear he probably has liquid nitrogen running through his veins instead of blood." My thumb froze over my phone screen. The little checkmark turned blue. Delivered. Read receipt, on. Oh God. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the place where I share the wildest, most jaw-dropping stories that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about fate, love, and accidentally ruining your entire career in one catastrophic text message. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love seeing where all of you amazing people are tuning in from. And listen, before we dive into this absolute roller coaster, let me ask you something important. Have you subscribed yet? Because trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one. If you love stories packed with suspense, humor, shocking twists, and a romance that'll make your heart race, then hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, do it. You won't regret it. Now, back to the nightmare unfolding in my trembling hands. I stared at my phone like it had just sprouted fangs and bitten me. The group chat notification sat there, mocking me with its cheerful little ping sound. Except this wasn't the group chat. This was a direct message. To Nicholas Morgan. My boss. The man whose penetrating gray eyes could freeze hellfire itself. The CEO of Morgan Industries, a company worth approximately $7 billion, whose reputation for being cold, calculating, and completely devoid of human warmth was legendary throughout Manhattan's business district. And I had just called him an insufferable ice king. To his face. Digitally speaking. The coffee mug in my other hand slipped, splashing lukewarm latte across my already stained blouse. Of course. Because why wouldn't the universe pile on when I was already having the worst morning of my 26-year existence? Sophie? Sophie Bennett, are you listening? I jerked my head up. My cubicle neighbor, Janet from accounting, was peering over the gray partition with that concerned mom expression she always wore when I was clearly spiraling. Her reading glasses hung from a beaded chain around her neck, and her perfectly styled silver hair didn't have a strand out of place. Unlike me, who looked like I'd been dragged through a hedge backward after wrestling a tornado. Yes. No. Maybe. I stammered, my brain still stuck on the catastrophic text message currently burning a hole through the fabric of reality. Janet, I think I just ended my career. Again. She raised an eyebrow. What did you do this time? Accidentally email the entire company about your therapy sessions. Worse. My voice came out as a strangled whisper. So much worse. The thing is, I'd been having the morning from hell even before the text message incident. I'd woken up 20 minutes late because my alarm didn't go off, or rather, I'd apparently turned it off in my sleep and had zero memory of doing so. Then I discovered my apartment had no hot water, which meant I'd taken the world's fastest, coldest shower while internally screaming. My last clean blouse had a mysterious stain on it that I tried to hide with a cardigan, but the cardigan had a button missing. My subway train had been delayed for 15 minutes due to police activity, which in New York could mean literally anything from a minor disturbance to a full-scale alien invasion. And when I'd finally stumbled into the sleek, intimidatingly modern lobby of Morgan Industries at 9:47 a.m., 17 minutes late, I'd been carrying a to-go coffee cup that had somehow leaked all over my bag, ruining the proposal documents I was supposed to deliver to Nicholas Morgan's office by 9:30 a.m. sharp. So yeah, it had been that kind of morning. The kind of morning where you're so frazzled, so completely overwhelmed by the universe's apparent vendetta against your existence, that you desperately need to vent to your best friend. Which is exactly what I'd tried to do. Except I'd sent it to the wrong person. My phone buzzed in my hand, and I nearly dropped it. A new message notification appeared, and my heart stopped beating entirely. Nicholas Morgan, my office. Now. 2 words. That's all it took for my entire body to go cold despite the oppressive heat of the office's broken air conditioning system. 2 words that carried the weight of a death sentence, delivered in the characteristically terse style that had made Nicholas Morgan both feared and respected throughout the corporate world. Oh no, I breathed. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Sophie, what's happening? Janet was fully standing now, her maternal instincts clearly sensing my imminent doom. He wants to see me. I held up my phone with a shaking hand, showing her the message. Nicholas Morgan just summoned me to his office, and Janet, I think I'm about to be fired. Or worse. Can he sue me? Can you sue someone for calling you an ice king? Is that slander? Libel? I can't remember which one applies to text messages. Breathe, honey. Janet reached over and squeezed my shoulder. Just go up there, apologize profusely, and maybe he'll have mercy. You know, play up the silly young assistant who didn't mean any harm angle. Janet, this is Nicholas Morgan we're talking about. The man once fired an executive for being 3 minutes late to a meeting. 3 minutes. I literally just called him an insufferable ice king with liquid nitrogen for blood. I'm not getting mercy. I'm getting escorted out by security. But I stood up anyway, because what choice did I have? My legs felt like they'd been replaced with jelly, and my heart was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. The office around me seemed to blur, the rows of cubicles, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, the modern art pieces that probably cost more than my annual salary hanging on the pristine white walls. I'd worked at Morgan Industries for exactly 8 months. 8 months of trying to prove I was more than just the klutzy, somewhat chaotic assistant who'd somehow landed this position through a combination of desperation and dumb luck. 8 months of navigating the cutthroat corporate environment, where office politics were a blood sport and Nicholas Morgan ruled from his penthouse office like a king surveying his empire. And I was about to lose it all because of one stupid text message. The elevator ride to the top floor felt like ascending to my own execution. The sleek metal doors reflected my panicked expression back at me, mascara slightly smudged, hair escaping from its attempted professional bun, coffee stain on my blouse that the cardigan definitely wasn't hiding. I looked exactly like what I was, a disaster wrapped in business casual clothing. Ding. The elevator doors opened to reveal the executive floor, a realm of hushed luxury that always made me feel like I was trespassing in a museum after hours. Marble floors, original artwork, fresh flowers in crystal vases, and that indefinable scent of expensive everything that clung to the air like perfume. Nicholas Morgan's office was at the end of the hall. The double doors were made of dark wood that probably came from trees that grew on mountains blessed by ancient spirits or something equally intimidating. His assistant, a woman named Victoria who looked like she'd been carved from ice herself, sat at a sleek desk outside those doors. She looked up as I approached, her expression completely neutral. Ms. Bennett. Mr. Morgan is expecting you. Is he armed? I blurted out, then immediately wanted to die. I mean, that was a joke. A bad joke. Obviously, he's not. I'm just going to go in now. Victoria's lips twitched, which I think was her version of a smile. Or maybe a suppressed laugh at my impending doom. Hard to tell. I pushed open those heavy doors, and my fate rushed up to meet me. Nicholas Morgan's office was exactly as intimidating as the man himself. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Manhattan skyline, minimalist furniture that screamed, "I'm too important for clutter," and a massive desk made of dark wood and steel that looked like it could double as a weapon if necessary. And behind that desk sat the man who was about to end my career. Nicholas Morgan was 42 years old, though he looked younger in that way rich people always do, probably because they can afford personal trainers, nutritionists, and whatever magical treatments keep stress from aging them like the rest of us mortals. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his charcoal suit probably cost more than my car, and those gray eyes, God those eyes, were currently fixed on me with an intensity that made me want to spontaneously combust. He looked exactly like the Ice King I'd called him. Cold. Calculating. Completely devoid of warmth. Ms. Bennett. His voice was deep, controlled, with that edge of steel that made everyone in the company snap to attention. Sit. I sat. More like collapsed, really, into the leather chair across from his desk. He held up his phone. My text message was displayed on the screen, enlarged for maximum humiliation. Would you care to explain, he said, each word precisely articulated, why I received this colorful assessment of my character this morning? My mouth went dry. It was meant for my friend. Chelsea Rodriguez. I was having a really bad morning, and I just needed to vent, and somehow my thumb must have. You were venting. His tone didn't change. About me. To your friend. But instead sent it to me. Yes. I mean not about you specifically, well yes about you but not in a, I was babbling now, words tumbling out in a desperate avalanche. Mr. Morgan, I am so incredibly sorry. It was completely unprofessional and inappropriate, and I take full responsibility. What did you mean, he interrupted, his eyes never leaving mine, by the Clemens deal smells fishier than the subway in August? I froze. That line. That specific line from my text that I'd thought was just part of my general rant. The Clemens deal was a massive merger Nicholas had been working on for months, a partnership with Clemens International that would expand Morgan Industries into 3 new markets and was worth approximately $200 million. My brain stuttered. I don't know. I was just being dramatic. No. He leaned forward, and for the first time, I saw something besides ice in those gray eyes. Something sharp. Interested. You work in executive support. You process documents, handle schedules, manage communications. You see things. Hear things. His gaze intensified. What made you say the Clemens deal smells fishy? And suddenly, I realized something that made my blood run cold for an entirely different reason. He wasn't going to fire me. He wanted to know what I knew. Because somewhere in my rambling, sarcastic text message to what I'd thought was my best friend, I had accidentally stumbled onto something real. Something dangerous. Something that could change everything. What did I know about the Clemens deal that Nicholas Morgan didn't? Okay, my incredible viewers, I need you to pause right here and tell me something. What do you think Sophie accidentally discovered? Drop your theories in the comments below. I want to know what your gut is telling you. And if you're already hooked, if your heart is racing wondering what happens next, smash that subscribe button because this story is about to get absolutely wild. Trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. How are you feeling right now? Are you Team Sophie or Team Nicholas? Let me know in the comments. The silence in Nicholas Morgan's office stretched between us like a tightrope, and I was balanced precariously in the middle, trying not to fall. His question hung in the air. What made you say the Clemens deal smells fishy? I'd never been good at poker faces. My mother used to say I wore my emotions like a billboard, bright, obvious, and impossible to miss. Right now, that billboard was flashing panic in neon letters approximately 40 feet tall. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. What did I know about the Clemens deal? It's probably nothing. I mean, I'm just an assistant. What would I know about Ms. Bennett? Nicholas stood, and somehow that made him even more intimidating. He moved around his desk with the fluid grace of a predator, stopping just close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. I've built this company from the ground up over the past 15 years. I've negotiated deals worth billions, outmaneuvered competitors who wanted nothing more than to see me fail, and I've done it all by recognizing when someone is hiding something. You are hiding something. My heart hammered against my ribs. Mr. Morgan, I really don't think. 3 weeks ago, he continued, his voice dropping to that low, commanding tone that made executives tremble in board meetings, you delivered a stack of documents to my office. Merger proposals, financial projections, communication logs. You were supposed to simply drop them off, but instead, you spent 45 minutes reorganizing them because, and I quote, the staples weren't aligned properly. I blinked. You noticed that? I notice everything, Ms. Bennett. He returned to his desk, but this time he sat on the edge rather than behind it, a deliberate move to seem less formal, though the effect was still thoroughly intimidating. I also noticed that during those 45 minutes, you read every single document in that stack. Don't deny it, I have cameras. Oh God. He had cameras. Of course he had cameras. I wasn't trying to spy or anything, I said quickly, heat rushing to my cheeks. I have this thing where I can't not read something if it's in front of me. It's like a compulsion. My therapist says it's linked to my anxiety and my need to control. I cut myself off. You don't care about my therapy sessions. On the contrary. He tilted his head, studying me with those penetrating gray eyes. I find it fascinating that someone with a bachelor's degree in forensic accounting from Columbia, yes, I know about that too, is working as an executive assistant instead of in our finance department. My stomach dropped. How do you? Background checks, Ms. Bennett. Standard procedure. He crossed his arms. What I'm curious about is why someone with your qualifications is hiding in a support role, processing paperwork and fetching coffee. Nobody had asked me that question in 8 months. Not Janet from accounting. Not Victoria, the Ice Queen assistant. Not even Chelsea, my best friend since college, who'd simply accepted my vague explanations about wanting a fresh start and needing something low-stress for a while. The truth was complicated. Messy. The kind of story that didn't fit neatly into interview answers or casual conversations. I had a job, I said quietly, my fingers twisting in my lap. At Hartwell and Associates. I was a junior analyst, and I was good at it. Really good. I found discrepancies in accounts, caught errors that senior analysts missed, and I loved it. The words came faster now, tumbling out like I'd been holding them back for too long. But then I found something I wasn't supposed to find. Evidence of embezzlement. My supervisor was skimming money from client accounts, and when I reported it, I stopped, the memory still sharp even 2 years later. He what? Nicholas's voice had lost some of its edge, replaced by something that might have been genuine interest. He made sure I was blamed for it instead. Falsified documents, manipulated records, made it look like I was the one embezzling. By the time the truth came out, my reputation was destroyed. I was cleared legally, but professionally. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Nobody wanted to hire the analyst who'd been involved in an embezzlement scandal, even if I was the whistleblower. So I took whatever job I could get, which happened to be fetching your coffee and organizing your staples. The confession left me feeling raw, exposed. I'd never told anyone at Morgan Industries about Hartwell and Associates. It wasn't exactly the kind of thing you brought up in casual office small talk. Nicholas was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he said something I didn't expect. That takes courage. Reporting fraud, even when you know it could cost you everything. I looked up at him, surprised. Most people think it was stupid. Most people don't understand the difference between courage and stupidity. He stood again, pacing to the window that overlooked Manhattan's glittering skyline. Which brings us back to the Clemens deal. You saw those documents 3 weeks ago. You read them, I know you did. And something in those documents made you uncomfortable enough to mention it in what you thought was a private conversation. So I'll ask you again, Ms. Bennett, what did you see? This was it. The moment where I either helped him or played it safe. Where I either used the skills I'd been hiding for 2 years or kept my head down and stayed invisible. I thought about my apartment, a shoebox studio in Queens that smelled like the Chinese restaurant downstairs. I thought about my student loans, the ones that kept me awake at 3 a.m. doing mental math. I thought about how desperately I'd needed this job, any job, after Hartwell and Associates destroyed my career. But I also thought about that feeling I'd had 3 weeks ago, reading through those Clemens documents while obsessively realigning staples. That nagging sensation in my gut that something was wrong. That same sensation that had made me dig deeper at Hartwell, that had ultimately been right even though it cost me everything. The numbers don't match, I said finally. Nicholas turned from the window. Explain. The financial projections for the merger, they show Clemens International increasing Morgan Industries' revenue by 35% over 3 years. But their internal communications reference a different set of numbers. Lower numbers. And the timeline for integration keeps changing in different documents, like someone's trying to hide discrepancies. I stood, nervous energy propelling me to my feet. There's also communication between your executive team and Clemens that references accounts I couldn't find in any of the official documentation. Shadow accounts, maybe? Or offshore holdings that aren't being declared. You got all that from 45 minutes of reading? I told you, I have a compulsion. I started pacing, the words flowing faster now as my brain kicked into analyst mode. And there's more. The due diligence reports from Clemens, they're too clean. Nobody's financials are that perfect, especially not a company their size expanding into new markets. It's like someone scrubbed them specifically to hide red flags. Red flags like what? I don't know. I'd need access to more documents, their full financial history, communication logs between all parties. I stopped abruptly, realizing what I was saying. But I'm just an assistant. I don't have access to any of that. Nicholas pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then looked at me. You do now. What? I'm granting you Level 5 security clearance. Full access to all Clemens deal documents, communications, and financial records. He moved back to his desk, his demeanor shifting from interrogating CEO to someone who just made a decision. You're going to investigate this properly. Quietly. No one can know what you're looking for. Mr. Morgan, I'm not a... You're a forensic accountant with a proven track record of finding fraud, even when it costs you everything. His gray eyes locked onto mine, and for the first time since I'd entered his office, I saw something other than ice in them. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. And right now you're telling me that the biggest deal of my career, a deal that could make or break this company, might be compromised. So yes, Ms. Bennett, you are exactly what I need. My phone buzzed. A notification. Security clearance updated. Level 5 access granted. I don't understand, I said slowly. You're trusting me? Just like that? I literally called you an insufferable ice king this morning. You were honest about what you saw when most people would have played it safe. That's worth more than flattery. He sat back down behind his desk, already pulling up files on his computer. Besides, Victoria ran a comprehensive background check on you when you were hired. I know about Hartwell and Associates. I know you were cleared of all charges. And I know you were telling the truth about the embezzlement, even though it destroyed your career. You knew. My voice came out strangled. This whole time, you knew about Hartwell? I know everything about everyone who works for me, Ms. Bennett. It's how I stay ahead. He glanced up at me. The question is, are you ready to use those skills again? Because if you're right about the Clemens deal, we're looking at something much bigger and more dangerous than a simple business merger. I should have said no. I should have walked out of that office, kept my head down, and continued being the invisible assistant who fetched coffee and organized staples. That would have been the safe choice. The smart choice. But I'd never been good at safe choices. I'll need a private workspace, I said. Somewhere no one questions why I'm accessing sensitive documents. And I'll need to coordinate with your IT department to track digital communications. Done. Victoria will set you up in the Executive Research Suite. It's secure, soundproof, and most importantly, isolated from the rest of the company. He stood, extending his hand across the desk. Welcome to the investigation, Ms. Bennett. I shook his hand, and despite everything, the panic, the fear, the absolute insanity of what I was agreeing to, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Purpose. One more thing, Nicholas said as I turned to leave. The part in your text where you said I probably have liquid nitrogen running through my veins? I froze, mortified. Yes. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, but was definitely the closest thing to it I'd ever seen on Nicholas Morgan's face. It's not entirely inaccurate. But I'm working on it. And then he dismissed me, returning to his computer as if he hadn't just completely appended my entire existence. I walked out of his office in a daze, past Victoria's desk where she was typing with mechanical efficiency. Ms. Bennett, she said without looking up. Your new workspace is on the 47th floor, Suite 4701. Your access codes have been sent to your phone. Mr. Morgan expects daily reports, delivered in person at 6 p.m. Don't be late. I'm granting you Level 5 security clearance. Full access to all Clemens deal documents, communications, and financial records. He moved back to his desk, his demeanor shifting from interrogating CEO to someone who just made a decision. You're going to investigate this properly. Quietly. No one can know what you're looking for. Mr. Morgan, I'm not a... You're a forensic accountant with a proven track record of finding fraud, even when it costs you everything. His gray eyes locked onto mine, and for the first time since I'd entered his office, I saw something other than ice in them. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. And right now you're telling me that the biggest deal of my career, a deal that could make or break this company, might be compromised. So yes, Ms. Bennett, you are exactly what I need. My phone buzzed. A notification, security clearance updated. Level 5 access granted. I don't understand, I said slowly. You're trusting me? Just like that? I literally called you an insufferable ice king this morning. You were honest about what you saw when most people would have played it safe. That's worth more than flattery. He sat back down behind his desk, already pulling up files on his computer. Besides, Victoria ran a comprehensive background check on you when you were hired. I know about Hartwell and Associates. I know you were cleared of all charges. And I know you were telling the truth about the embezzlement, even though it destroyed your career. You knew. My voice came out strangled. This whole time, you knew about Hartwell? I know everything about everyone who works for me, Ms. Bennett. It's how I stay ahead. He glanced up at me. The question is, are you ready to use those skills again? Because if you're right about the Clemens deal, we're looking at something much bigger and more dangerous than a simple business merger. I should have said no. I should have walked out of that office, kept my head down, and continued being the invisible assistant who fetched coffee and organized staples. That would have been the safe choice. The smart choice. But I'd never been good at safe choices. I'll need a private workspace, I said. Somewhere no one questions why I'm accessing sensitive documents. And I'll need to coordinate with your IT department to track digital communications. Done. Victoria will set you up in the Executive Research Suite. It's secure, soundproof, and most importantly, isolated from the rest of the company. He stood, extending his hand across the desk. Welcome to the investigation, Ms. Bennett. I shook his hand, and despite everything, the panic, the fear, the absolute insanity of what I was agreeing to, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Purpose. One more thing, Nicholas said as I turned to leave. The part in your text where you said I probably have liquid nitrogen running through my veins? I froze, mortified. Yes. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, but was definitely the closest thing to it I'd ever seen on Nicholas Morgan's face. It's not entirely inaccurate. But I'm working on it. And then he dismissed me, returning to his computer as if he hadn't just completely appended my entire existence. I walked out of his office in a daze, past Victoria's desk where she was typing with mechanical efficiency. Ms. Bennett, she said without looking up. Your new workspace is on the 47th floor, Suite 4701. Your access codes have been sent to your phone. Mr. Morgan expects daily reports, delivered in person at 6 p.m. Don't be late. This was real. This was happening. I set down my bag, pulled out my coffee-stained notepad, and wrote at the top of a fresh page, Clemens deal, what's wrong? Then I started working, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt like myself again. Like Sophie Bennett, forensic accountant. Not Sophie Bennett, disaster assistant. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known as I dove into those documents with renewed purpose, was that I was about to uncover something far more sinister than simple financial fraud. Something that had been hiding in plain sight for over a decade. Something that would put both Nicholas Morgan and me in danger. And something that would change both of our lives forever. I'd been staring at financial spreadsheets for 3 hours when I found it. Not the smoking gun, not yet. But a thread. A tiny, almost invisible thread that, when pulled, would unravel everything. My eyes burned from the screen's glare, and my third cup of coffee had gone cold beside me. The Executive Research Suite was tomb silent except for the soft hum of computer fans and the occasional click of my keyboard. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan glittered in the afternoon sun, oblivious to the conspiracy I was starting to piece together. The Clemens deal documents were extensive, hundreds of pages of financial projections, merger agreements, due diligence reports, and communication logs. On the surface, everything looked legitimate. Professional. Clean. Too clean. I pulled up the communication logs again, cross-referencing them against the financial transfers. That's when I saw it, a pattern in the timestamps. Every major financial decision regarding the Clemens deal had been preceded by communication between Nicholas's CFO, a man named Lawrence Patel, and someone at Clemens International. But the communications weren't going through official channels. They were happening through encrypted emails routed through a server that wasn't listed anywhere in Morgan Industries' IT infrastructure. Shadow communications. Hidden server. Encrypted emails. My forensic accounting instincts, the ones I'd tried to bury for 2 years, roared to life. Gotcha, I whispered to the empty room. I started mapping out the communication pattern on the whiteboard, using different colored markers to track the flow of information. Blue for official channels. Red for shadow communications. Green for financial transfers that corresponded with those communications. What emerged was a web. A complex, deliberately hidden web that connected Lawrence Patel, several executives at Clemens International, and my hand froze mid-stroke, 2 board members from Morgan Industries. Board members. People Nicholas trusted to help run his company. This wasn't just fraud. This was betrayal at the highest level. My phone buzzed, making me jump. A text from Chelsea. Chelsea, okay, seriously, you've been radio silent all day. Are you dead? Did the Ice King fire you? Respond or I'm calling the police. I smiled despite the gravity of what I was uncovering. Me, not dead. Not fired. Can't talk. Working on something big. Chelsea, big like I'm finally going to ask out that cute guy from IT, or big like I'm having an existential crisis. Me, big like I might have accidentally stumbled into a corporate conspiracy that could take down a billion-dollar company. Chelsea. Chelsea, what? Chelsea, Sophie Bennett, I swear to God if you don't call me right now. I silenced my phone. Chelsea would have to wait. This was too important. I pulled up the financial transfers next, tracking every dollar that moved between Morgan Industries and Clemens International over the past 6 months. The official numbers matched the merger agreement perfectly. But when I dug into the encrypted communications, I found references to different amounts. Smaller transfers. Payments labeled as consulting fees and advisory services that didn't appear in any official documentation. Someone was skimming money from the deal. No, not skimming. That was too simple. This was sophisticated. Planned. Whoever was behind this had spent months, maybe years, setting up the infrastructure to pull it off. I was so absorbed in tracking the money trail that I didn't hear the door open behind me. Interesting color scheme. I spun around, nearly knocking over my cold coffee. Nicholas Morgan stood in the doorway, his suit jacket gone and his sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that were unexpectedly muscular for a CEO who spent most of his time behind a desk. His tie was loosened, and there was a tiredness around his eyes that hadn't been there this morning. Mr. Morgan. I pressed a hand to my racing heart. You scared me. It's 6:15 p.m., Ms. Bennett. You missed our daily report. His gaze traveled from me to the whiteboard covered in my manic scribbling. Though I can see you've been busy. 6:15. I checked my phone. Oh God. I completely lost track of time. I'm so sorry, I was just. Show me what you found. He moved into the room with that same predatory grace, stopping in front of the whiteboard. His gray eyes scanned the web of colored lines and notes, and I watched his expression shift from curious to focus to something that looked like controlled fury. Explain, he said quietly. I grabbed my laser pointer, because of course this fancy suite had a laser pointer, and began walking him through it. The official Clemens deal shows a clean merger with transparent financials. But underneath, there's a shadow operation. Your CFO, Lawrence Patel, has been communicating with Clemens executives through an encrypted server that's not part of Morgan Industries' official IT infrastructure. These communications happen right before major financial decisions, and they reference amounts that don't match the official documentation. I pointed to a cluster of red lines. These are the shadow communications. And these, I moved the pointer to green highlights, are the corresponding financial transfers. Small amounts, labeled as consulting fees or advisory services, but they're going to accounts that don't appear in any official records. Nicholas's jaw tightened. How much? Over the past 6 months? Approximately $15 million. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush diamonds. 15 million. His voice was dangerously quiet. My CFO has embezzled $15 million from this company, and I didn't notice. It's not just embezzlement, I said, pulling up another document on the monitor. Look at this. The board members, Richard Castellano and Monica Hayes, they're mentioned in several of these encrypted communications. They're complicit. This isn't one person stealing, this is a coordinated conspiracy. Nicholas moved closer to the monitor, reading the communications log. His proximity made me acutely aware of how small the room suddenly felt, how I could smell his cologne, something expensive and cedar-scented that was completely at odds with the Ice King reputation. Richard and Monica have been on my board for 8 years, he said, his voice tight with barely contained rage. I trusted them. I brought them in specifically because I thought they were loyal. I'm sorry, I said softly, because what else could you say when someone's world was being torn apart? He turned to look at me, and the intensity in his gray eyes made my breath catch. Don't apologize for doing your job, Ms. Bennett. You found what I couldn't see. That's exactly what I needed. There's more. I pulled up another file, steeling myself for his reaction. The Clemens deal itself, it's a front. The company they're claiming to merge with? Clemens International? It exists, but the version in these documents has been fabricated. Someone created a shell company with the same name, same credentials, same everything. But it's hollow. If this merger goes through as planned, Morgan Industries will be acquiring a company that's essentially worthless, and the real Clemens International, the legitimate one, will sue for trademark infringement and fraud. Nicholas's hand gripped the edge of the desk. How long? How long what? How long have they been planning this? I pulled up the oldest communication I could find. The first encrypted email I can trace is from 10 years ago. This isn't opportunistic fraud, Mr. Morgan. This is a long-game takedown. Someone has been systematically positioning themselves to destroy Morgan Industries for a decade. Who? That was the question, wasn't it? The one I'd been trying to answer for the past 3 hours. I don't know yet, I admitted. Lawrence Patel is involved, clearly. Richard and Monica from the board. Several executives at the fake Clemens International. But there's someone else. Someone coordinating everything. I can see their fingerprints all over these communications, but they never identify themselves directly. They use code names. The architect. The architect, Nicholas repeated, his voice flat. How original. I need more time to trace the communications back to their source. But whoever this person is, they're smart. They've covered their tracks well. I hesitated, then added, Mr. Morgan, if this deal goes through, Morgan Industries won't just lose money. The legal fallout alone could bankrupt the company. And if the media gets wind of it, we'll be destroyed. He moved to the window, staring out at the city. 15 years of work. Everything I've built. Gone because I trusted the wrong people. The pain in his voice was raw, unguarded. This was a different Nicholas Morgan from the Ice King who'd summoned me to his office this morning. This was a man watching his empire crumble. We can stop it, I said firmly. We have evidence. We can expose them before the deal closes. The deal closes in 2 weeks, Ms. Bennett. And if we go public with accusations against my own CFO and board members without ironclad proof, they'll turn it around on us. They'll claim I'm unstable, trying to sabotage my own company. I'll be removed, and they'll proceed with the merger exactly as planned. He was right. I knew he was right. Then we need ironclad proof, I said. And we need it fast. Nicholas turned back to me, and for a moment, we just looked at each other. Two people who'd started this day as barely acknowledged co-workers and had somehow ended up as reluctant partners in uncovering a conspiracy. You should go home, he said finally. It's late. You've done enough for today. I'm not leaving. The words came out more forcefully than I intended. I'm close to something. I can feel it. Just give me a few more hours. Sophie. It was the first time he'd used my first name. Not Ms. Bennett. Not the assistant. Sophie. You've been working for 7 hours straight. You haven't eaten. I can see from here that your hands are shaking from too much caffeine and not enough food. His expression softened slightly. I appreciate your dedication, but I need you sharp tomorrow, not burnt out tonight. But that's not a request, Ms. Bennett. The CEO voice was back, though not unkindly. Go home. Eat something. Sleep. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. I wanted to argue. Every instinct I had screamed at me to stay, to keep digging, to find that one piece of evidence that would crack this whole thing open. But I also knew he was right. I was exhausted, running on adrenaline and bad coffee, and I'd make mistakes if I pushed too hard. Fine, I conceded. But I'm taking these files home with me. I'll review them tonight. Absolutely not. His tone was firm. These documents stay in this secure room. I can't risk them being compromised. Then how am I supposed to? My phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. And again. I glanced at the screen. 15 texts from Chelsea, each more panicked than the last. Chelsea, Sophie Alexandria Bennett, answer your phone right now. Chelsea, if you're dead I'm going to kill you. Chelsea, seriously this isn't funny anymore. Chelsea, I'm about to call your mom. That last one made my blood run cold. Chelsea knew my mother was the human equivalent of a hurricane wrapped in concerned parenting. Calling her would unleash chaos. Me, alive. Not dead. Do not call my mother. We'll explain everything later. Promise. Your friend. Nicholas asked, the ghost of amusement in his voice. She thinks I'm having a crisis. Are you? I looked at the whiteboard, at the web of conspiracy I'd uncovered, at the evidence of a decade-long plot to destroy everything Nicholas had built. Then I looked at him, this man who'd gone from terrifying Ice King to reluctant ally in the span of 12 hours. Honestly? I have no idea what I'm having. I grabbed my bag. But whatever it is, it's definitely not boring. No, Nicholas agreed. It's definitely not boring. As I headed for the door, he called out, Ms. Bennett. I turned back. Thank you, he said simply. For caring enough to see what others missed. The sincerity in his voice made something warm unfurl in my chest, something dangerous and completely inappropriate given the circumstances. Just doing my job, Mr. Morgan. Nicholas, he corrected. If we're going to be investigating a conspiracy together, you should probably call me Nicholas. Then you should call me Sophie. Sophie. The way he said my name sent an unexpected shiver down my spine. Go home. Rest. We have a company to save. I left the executive suite in a daze, my mind still spinning with financial trails and encrypted communications and the way Nicholas, not Mr. Morgan Nicholas, had looked at me when he said thank you. The subway ride back to Queens was packed with evening commuters, but I barely noticed. I was too busy replaying everything that had happened, trying to process the whiplash of going from disaster assistant to corporate investigator in less than 24 hours. My phone rang as I climbed the stairs to my apartment. Chelsea. I answered on the second ring. I'm alive, I said before she could start yelling. Sophie Bennett, you have exactly 5 minutes to explain what the hell is going on before I show up at your apartment with wine and a detailed interrogation plan. Make it 10 minutes. I need to shower and change out of this coffee-stained blouse. Still wearing the disaster outfit from this morning? Girl, what happened? I accidentally texted my billionaire boss instead of you, exposed a massive corporate conspiracy, got promoted to secret investigator, and now I'm apparently on a first-name basis with the most terrifying CEO in Manhattan. I unlocked my apartment door, stepping into the familiar chaos of my tiny studio. So you know, just a normal Tuesday. The silence on the other end lasted exactly 3 seconds. I'm bringing 2 bottles of wine. Make it 3. 20 minutes later, I was showered, changed into my most comfortable sweatpants, and had just finished nuking some leftover Thai food when Chelsea knocked on my door. She burst in like a hurricane, tall, gorgeous, with a kind of effortless style that made my perpetual disaster look even more pronounced. Her dark curls bounced as she set 3 bottles of wine on my tiny kitchen counter. Start talking, she commanded. And don't leave out a single detail. So I told her everything. The accidental text. The confrontation in Nicholas's office. The investigation. The conspiracy. The $15 million. The architect. All of it. Chelsea listened with increasingly wide eyes, occasionally interjecting with gasps or creative curse words. By the time I finished, she'd poured us both generous glasses of wine. Let me get this straight, she said slowly. You went from fetching coffee to investigating fraud in 1 day? Technically 8 hours. And Nicholas Morgan, the Ice King himself, just trusted you? Just like that. I know. It doesn't make sense to me either. Chelsea studied me over her wine glass, a knowing look in her eyes. Sophie, you do realize what this sounds like, right? A corporate thriller? A real-life mystery? A lawsuit waiting to happen? A romance novel, you disaster human. She grinned. Cold billionaire CEO. Plucky, brilliant assistant. Forced proximity while investigating a conspiracy. Girl, you're literally living a Wattpad story. Chelsea, no. Absolutely not. This is strictly professional. Nicholas is my boss. Nicholas? First name basis already. My cheeks heated. He insisted. For professional reasons. Ma'am, professional reasons. She leaned forward conspiratorially. Describe him to me. What? No. That's not relevant. Describe him. I sighed, knowing Chelsea wouldn't let this go. Fine. He's tall. Dark hair. Gray eyes that are kind of intense. Probably early 40s. Wears expensive suits. Walks like he owns every room he enters, which, to be fair, he usually does. And what? Is he attractive? I took a long sip of wine. That's definitely not relevant to the investigation. Sophie Alexandria Bennett, answer the question. Fine. Yes. He's attractive. In that cold, intimidating, I could destroy your entire existence with one phone call kind of way. Happy. Chelsea's grin was absolutely evil. Ecstatic. This is going to be so good. There's no this, Chelsea. This is an investigation. A serious, potentially dangerous investigation into a decade-long conspiracy that could destroy a billion-dollar company. Which you'll be conducting in close proximity to an attractive, powerful man who just showed you more trust in one day than most people earn in years. She raised her glass. To accidentally texting your boss and uncovering corporate conspiracies. To not getting fired, I corrected, clinking my glass against hers. Yet, Chelsea added with a wink. We drank, and for a few minutes, I let myself relax. Tomorrow would bring more spreadsheets, more encrypted communications, more pieces of a puzzle I was still trying to solve. Tomorrow, I'd have to face Nicholas again, pretend my heart didn't do weird things when he said my name, and somehow find enough evidence to take down a conspiracy that had been a decade in the making. But tonight, I had wine and Thai food and my best friend, and that was enough. My phone buzzed with a new message. I glanced at it, expecting another check-in from Chelsea even though she was sitting right in front of me. But it wasn't Chelsea. It was from an unknown number. Unknown, I know what you're looking for. Meet me tomorrow. 9 a.m. Grand Central, Track 42. Come alone. Don't tell Nicholas Morgan. Your life depends on it. The wine glass slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that message, your life depends on it. At 3 a.m., I was sitting on my floor surrounded by broken wine glass shards I still hadn't cleaned up, staring at my phone like it might suddenly reveal who'd sent that terrifying text. Chelsea had wanted to call the police. I'd convinced her not to barely, by arguing that we didn't know if this was a threat or a warning. There was a difference, I'd insisted, though I wasn't entirely sure I believed it myself. Come alone. Don't tell Nicholas Morgan. Why not tell Nicholas? Was the sender protecting him? Threatening him? Testing me? By 5 a.m., I'd given up on sleep entirely and was sitting at my tiny kitchen table with my laptop, reviewing everything I could access remotely about Track 42 at Grand Central. It wasn't even an active track, it was one of the abandoned platforms that urban explorers love to photograph, hidden deep in Grand Central's lower levels. Isolated. Private. Perfect for an ambush. This is insane, I muttered to my empty apartment. I should tell Nicholas. I should absolutely tell Nicholas. But what if telling him was exactly what the sender was warning against? What if there was information I needed to hear first? What if Nicholas himself was somehow? No. I stopped that thought immediately. Nicholas wasn't part of this. He couldn't be. I'd seen his face when I showed him the evidence, the raw betrayal in his eyes when he realized his own board members were conspiring against him. Unless that was all an act. Stop it, Sophie, I said aloud. You're spiraling. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder, meeting with Nicholas, 7 a.m. I had 2 hours to decide what to do. 2 hours to choose between following Nicholas's orders or meeting a mysterious stranger who might be trying to help, or trying to kill me. I chose the world's fastest shower, threw on the first professional outfit I could find, navy blazer, white blouse, black pants, the uniform of someone trying desperately to look like they have their life together, and headed out into the pre-dawn darkness of Queens. The subway was nearly empty this early, just a handful of night shift workers heading home and early risers heading to the gym. I found myself studying each person, wondering if any of them had sent that message. The businessman in the expensive suit. The woman with the yoga mat. The teenager with headphones. Anyone could be watching. I arrived at Morgan Industries at 6:45 a.m., my nerves wound so tight I felt like I might snap. The lobby was quiet, just the night security guard nodding at me as I scanned my badge. The elevator ride to the 47th floor felt interminable. Nicholas was already in the executive research suite when I arrived. He'd clearly been there for a while. His suit jacket was draped over a chair, his tie loosened, and 3 empty coffee cups sat on the desk. He was standing at the whiteboard, adding notes to my color-coded conspiracy web with a red marker. "You're early," he said without turning around. "So are you." I didn't sleep. He capped the marker, finally turning to face me. His gray eyes were bloodshot, and there was a tension in his jaw that suggested he'd been grinding his teeth all night. I spent the entire night going through files, trying to figure out how I missed this. How they fooled me for 10 years. "Nicholas. Do you know what the worst part is?" He moved to the window, his back to me. "It's not the money. It's not even the betrayal. It's that I pride myself on seeing things others miss. On being 3 steps ahead. And they outsmarted me. For a decade." I set down my bag, watching him carefully. This wasn't the Ice King. This was a man who'd been gutted by his own blind spots. "They didn't outsmart you," I said quietly. "They outsmarted everyone. That's what makes them dangerous. But not you." He turned, and there was something raw in his expression. "You saw it in 45 minutes. What does that say about me?" "It says you trusted your team. That's not a weakness, Nicholas. It's human." "Human." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's what got me into this mess. Being human. Trusting. Believing that loyalty meant something." I wanted to comfort him. To close the distance between us and tell him that trust wasn't the problem, that betrayal was a reflection of the betrayers, not the betrayed. But I couldn't. Because in 3 hours, I was going to betray his trust by meeting a stranger who'd explicitly told me not to tell him. "What did you find?" I asked instead, gesturing to his additions on the whiteboard. Nicholas seemed to shake himself, returning to CEO mode. "Lawrence Patel has been with the company for 12 years. He was one of my first executive hires. I mentored him personally." His finger traced one of the red lines. "Richard Castellano and Monica Hayes both joined the board 8 years ago, on Lawrence's recommendation. They all worked together at Hartwell and Associates before coming to Morgan Industries." My blood ran cold. "Hartwell and Associates? You know it. That's where I worked. Where I found the embezzlement and got blamed for it." My mind was racing. "Nicholas, what if that wasn't random? What if they targeted me specifically because I'd worked at Hartwell? What if they know I'm investigating?" The implications hung in the air between us, heavy and threatening. "If they know," Nicholas said slowly, "then you're in danger. We're both in danger." "No." His voice turned hard. "You're done with this investigation. I'm pulling you off effective immediately. This is too risky." "Are you kidding me?" Anger flared hot in my chest. "You give me 1 day of actual purpose, of using my skills for something that matters, and now you're taking it away? I'm protecting you." "I don't need protection. I need to finish what I started." I moved toward him, my hands clenched into fists. "You don't get to make me care about this and then sideline me because it got dangerous. I'm not some fragile thing that needs to be locked away for safekeeping." "Sophie. Did they target me? Probably. Do they know I'm investigating? Maybe. Am I scared? Absolutely." I met his eyes, refusing to back down. "But I'm also the only person who knows how to trace their financial footprints. I'm the only one who understands forensic accounting well enough to find the evidence we need. So unless you have another forensic accountant hidden somewhere in this building, you need me." Nicholas stared at me for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. "You're terrifying when you're angry." "Good. You should be terrified. Now show me what else you found." The corner of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. Lawrence's financials show several large deposits over the past 10 years. Always offshore accounts. Always after major company milestones. Payments, I said, moving to examine the documents he'd pulled up on the monitor. They were paying him to sabotage from within. And Richard and Monica were insurance. Board members who could override my decisions if necessary. Nicholas pulled up another file. But here's what I don't understand. The architect, whoever they are, they've been coordinating this for a decade. That's an incredible amount of patience and planning. What's the end game? Why not just destroy the company years ago? Because they're not just trying to destroy it, I said slowly, the pieces clicking into place. They're trying to acquire it. The fake Clemens merger, it's designed to bankrupt Morgan Industries, drive down the stock price, and then someone swoops in to buy it for pennies on the dollar. The architect doesn't want to destroy your company, Nicholas. They want to steal it. His jaw tightened. Who has that kind of capital and patience? Someone who has a personal vendetta. Someone you've crossed. I turned to face him. Nicholas, who did you compete with to build this company? Who did you beat to secure major contracts? Who might want revenge? Half of Manhattan's business elite, he said grimly. I didn't build Morgan Industries by making friends. My phone buzzed in my pocket. 7:30 a.m. 90 minutes until the meeting at Grand Central. I needed to tell him. I should tell him. Every instinct I had screamed that keeping secrets from Nicholas was a terrible idea. But what if the sender had information that could break this case open? What if they knew who the architect was? What if telling Nicholas put him in more danger? Sophie. Nicholas was watching me carefully. What's wrong? Nothing. I just think, Sophie. Think. I should get started on tracing those offshore accounts. The routing numbers might tell us where the money originated. He studied me for another beat, and I had the uncomfortable feeling that he could see right through my lie. But he didn't push. I have a board meeting at 9 a.m., he said. Routine quarterly review. Lawrence, Richard, and Monica will all be there. Can you act normal around them? Pretend you don't know. I've been pretending for 30 years, Sophie. I can manage a few more days. He moved toward his jacket, sliding it on with practiced efficiency. I need you to stay in this suite. Don't go anywhere, don't talk to anyone. If they know you're investigating. I'll be careful, I interrupted. I promise. Another long look. Another moment where I felt completely transparent. 7 p.m., he said finally. We reconvene here. You show me what you found, I'll tell you if anything interesting happened in the board meeting. Deal. Nicholas headed for the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. Sophie? Whatever you're planning, don't do anything reckless. My heart stopped. What makes you think I'm planning something? Because you have the same look my sister gets right before she does something spectacularly ill-advised. He turned, pinning me with those intense gray eyes. Promise me you'll be careful. I promise, I lied. He left, and I immediately grabbed my bag and headed for the elevator. Grand Central at 8:30 a.m. was a chaotic symphony of commuters, tourists, and the perpetual energy of New York City in motion. I stood near the main information booth, watching the famous four-faced clock and trying to calm my racing heart. Track 42 was in the lower levels, accessed through a maintenance door most people didn't even notice. I'd studied the station layout obsessively last night, memorizing the route, planning escape paths in case this went sideways. At 8:55 a.m., I took a deep breath and descended into the station's deeper levels. The maintenance door was exactly where the old station map said it would be, unmarked, industrial, the kind of door that screamed employees only. I pulled it open, revealing a dimly lit stairwell that smelled like old concrete and stale air. My phone had no signal down here. I was completely cut off. Your life depends on it. This is either very brave or very stupid, I muttered, starting down the stairs. The abandoned platform was eerily beautiful in a haunted, forgotten way. Cracked tiles, old advertisements from the 1940s still clinging to the walls, and the perpetual drip of water from pipes overhead. A single work light illuminated the platform, casting long shadows. And standing in the middle of it all was a woman. She was maybe 50, wearing an elegant pantsuit and holding a briefcase like she just walked out of a business meeting rather than into an abandoned subway platform. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled into a severe bun, and her eyes, sharp, intelligent, calculating, locked onto me the moment I emerged from the stairwell. "Sophie Bennett," she said. "Not a question. A statement. Who are you?" I stayed near the exit, every muscle tense to run. "My name is Diana Harrington. I worked for Morgan Industries 15 years ago, before Nicholas rebuilt it into what it is today." She set down her briefcase, hands visible, making no threatening moves. "I'm the person who can help you take down the architect. But first, we need to talk about why they're really after Nicholas Morgan. Why should I trust you? Because 10 years ago, the architect destroyed my career, stole my work, and framed me for fraud. And because if you don't listen to what I have to say, Nicholas Morgan will lose everything, including his life." The certainty in her voice sent chills down my spine. "You have 5 minutes, I said. Diana smiled, but it wasn't warm. 5 minutes won't be nearly enough. The conspiracy you've uncovered? That's just the surface, Sophie. The real story goes back decades, involves 3 murdered executives, and centers on a secret that Nicholas doesn't even know he's keeping." "What secret?" "Morgan Industries isn't actually his company." Diana opened her briefcase, pulling out a thick file folder. "It was stolen. And the architect is the rightful owner, coming to take back what Nicholas took from them 15 years ago." The world tilted on its axis. "That's impossible," I said. "Nicholas built Morgan Industries from the ground up. Everyone knows that story. Everyone knows the story Nicholas tells. But the truth?" Diana held out the folder. "The truth is much more complicated. And much more dangerous." I took the folder with shaking hands, opening it to reveal documents, photographs, news clippings. My eyes scanned the pages, my forensic accounting brain automatically processing information. Corporate filings from 15 years ago. A different company name, Harrington Morgan Industries. Partners listed, Diana Harrington and Nicholas Morgan. Ownership split, 51% Diana, 49% Nicholas. Then, 6 months later, Diana Harrington arrested for embezzlement. Company restructured. Name changed to simply Morgan Industries. Sole owner, Nicholas Morgan. "You're saying Nicholas framed you?" My voice sounded distant, shocked. "No." Diana's expression was complicated, pained. "I'm saying someone framed both of us. Someone who wanted the company for themselves, who was willing to destroy anyone who got in their way. They made it look like I embezzled funds, forced me out, and then manipulated Nicholas into believing I'd betrayed him. He took control of the company to save it, never knowing he was playing right into their hands. But if they got you out and gave Nicholas the company, why wait 15 years to strike? Because Nicholas wasn't supposed to succeed." Diana pulled out another document, a 10-year-old financial projection. They expected him to fail, to bankrupt the company within 5 years. Then they'd swoop in, buy it for nothing, and own it legitimately. But Nicholas is brilliant. Stubborn. He turned Morgan Industries into a billion-dollar empire. And now they're furious. "The architect," I breathed, "is someone who's been playing the long game for decades. Someone patient enough to wait, smart enough to plan every move, and ruthless enough to kill anyone who gets too close to the truth." You said 3 murdered executives. All people who got close to discovering what really happened 15 years ago. All deaths ruled accidents or suicides. All convenient. Diana's eyes were hard. "And now you're investigating. Which makes you target number 4. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the folder. "Why are you telling me this? Why risk meeting me?" "Because I've spent 15 years gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment to clear my name and expose the architect. And because," Diana's expression softened slightly, "I actually liked Nicholas. He was a good partner before they turned us against each other. I don't want to see him destroyed." "What do you want from me?" "Help me finish what I started. Between my evidence and what you're finding inside Morgan Industries, we can identify the architect and stop them before the Clemens deal closes." She stepped closer. "But you need to be smart about this, Sophie. The architect has eyes everywhere. Inside the company. Maybe even close to Nicholas himself. You think there's a mole? I know there is. Someone feeding the architect information about every move Nicholas makes. Someone he trusts absolutely. Diana pulled out a phone, showing me a series of photos. These are surveillance shots from the past week. Someone has been photographing everyone who enters and exits Nicholas's office. Including you. The photos showed me, entering the executive suite, leaving Morgan Industries, even one from this morning arriving at work. I was being watched. Constantly. Who's taking these? My voice was barely a whisper. That's what we need to find out. Diana handed me the phone. Send these to yourself. Study them. Look for patterns in timing, angles, locations. The photographer is someone with access to executive areas, someone who can move freely without raising suspicion. I forwarded the photos to my personal email with trembling fingers. What else do you need from me? Access to Nicholas's calendar for the past 10 years. Board meeting minutes. Any internal communications about major business decisions. Diana was all business now. The architect has been manipulating events for decades. There will be patterns if we look hard enough. I can get those files, but it'll take time. You don't have time. The Clemens deal closes in 13 days. If it goes through, Nicholas loses everything, and the architect wins. Diana's voice was urgent. And Sophie? Don't tell Nicholas about me. Not yet. If the mole hears he's been in contact with me, they'll accelerate their timeline. People will die. You want me to lie to him. I want you to keep him alive long enough to save him. I thought about Nicholas's face that morning, the vulnerability he'd shown me, the trust he'd placed in me despite every reason not to. And now I was supposed to betray that trust. How do I contact you? I asked. Diana pulled out a burner phone, handing it to me. This number only. No names, no specifics over text. And be careful, Sophie. The architect knows you're investigating. They're watching. Waiting for you to make a mistake. One more thing, I said as Diana picked up her briefcase. If you spent 15 years gathering evidence, why do you need me? Why not just expose them yourself? Her smile was sad. Because no one will believe the disgraced former partner who was arrested for embezzlement. But they'll believe the brilliant forensic accountant who's currently helping Nicholas Morgan. You have credibility I'll never have again. She disappeared into the shadows of the abandoned platform, leaving me alone with a folder full of revelations and a phone that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I had evidence that Nicholas's entire story was built on a lie. I had photos proving someone was surveilling me. I had a mysterious ally who might be helping or might be manipulating me. And I had approximately 10 hours before I was supposed to meet Nicholas and pretend I hadn't just had my entire understanding of the situation shattered. The climb back up to Grand Central felt endless. My mind was spinning, trying to process everything Diana had told me. If she was telling the truth, and those documents looked legitimate, then Nicholas was as much a victim as anyone. He'd been manipulated, lied to, turned against his own partner. But what if Diana was lying? What if this was part of the architect's plan, feeding me false information to turn me against Nicholas? I emerged into the bright chaos of Grand Central's main concourse, blinking in the sudden light. My phone reconnected to the network and immediately exploded with notifications. 7 missed calls from Nicholas. 12 texts. The most recent, sent 3 minutes ago, "Where are you? Your badge shows you left the building. Sophie, answer me. Now." My heart sank. He knew I'd left. He knew I'd disobeyed him. I was standing there, staring at my phone in horror, when a hand grabbed my arm. I spun, ready to fight or flee, and came face to face with Nicholas Morgan. His gray eyes were storm-dark with fury and something that looked terrifyingly like fear. "My office," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Now." The car ride back to Morgan Industries was suffocating in its silence. Nicholas hadn't said a word since grabbing my arm at Grand Central. He'd simply steered me toward a waiting Blacktown car, opened the door with barely controlled fury, and slid in beside me. Now we sat in the back seat, separated by 12 inches of leather upholstery that felt like a chasm. His jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle twitching. His hands were fisted on his thighs. And his eyes, God, his eyes when they'd found me in Grand Central, had held a mixture of rage and something else. Something that looked like betrayal. I clutched Diana's folder against my chest, the evidence burning through the leather like acid. Every instinct screamed at me to explain, to tell him everything, to throw myself on his mercy and hope he'd understand. But Diana's warning echoed in my mind, don't tell Nicholas. Not yet. People will die. I can explain, I said finally, unable to bear the silence any longer. Can you? His voice was flat, devoid of the warmth that had crept into it over the past 2 days. The Ice King was back, and he was furious. Please, Ms. Bennett. Explain to me why, after I explicitly told you to stay in the executive suite where you'd be safe, I discovered you'd left the building. Explain why you ignored direct orders. Explain, his voice dropped to something dangerous, why you lied to me. I didn't lie. You promised you'd be careful. You looked me in the eye and promised. He turned to face me fully, and the hurt beneath his anger was devastating. Do you have any idea what went through my mind when I checked the security logs and saw you'd left? When you didn't answer your phone. When I thought. He cut himself off, looking away. Thought what? I asked softly. That they'd gotten to you. That you were dead in an alley somewhere because I dragged you into this nightmare. His voice was raw. That I'd lost someone else. He stopped again, jaw clenched. Someone else who mattered. The weight of those words settled between us, heavy with implications neither of us was ready to examine. I had to meet someone, I said carefully. Someone who has information about the architect. His head snapped toward me. Who? I can't tell you that. Can't or won't. Both. I met his eyes, even though it hurt. Nicholas, I need you to trust me. Trust you. He laughed, sharp and bitter. You want me to trust you after you just proved you don't trust me? It's not about trust. Then what is it about, Sophie? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're conducting your own investigation behind my back, meeting with God knows who, putting yourself in danger, and refusing to tell me anything. His eyes searched mine. So please enlighten me. What is this about? The car pulled up to Morgan Industries. The driver opened the door, and Nicholas exited without another word, leaving me to scramble after him. We rode the elevator in silence, a silence that felt like it was crushing my ribs. Other employees got on and off at various floors, shooting curious glances at their CEO's thunderous expression and my obvious distress. By the time we reached the 47th floor, I was ready to crawl out of my skin. Nicholas strode into the executive research suite, and I followed, closing the door behind us. Talk, he commanded, crossing his arms. Now. I set Diana's folder on the desk, my hands shaking. What I'm about to tell you is going to change everything. And you're going to be angry, angrier than you already are. But I need you to listen to all of it before you react. I'm listening. I took a deep breath. 15 years ago, you had a business partner. Diana Harrington. You founded a company together, Harrington Morgan Industries. She owned 51%, you owned 49%. Nicholas's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Recognition. Pain. 6 months after founding the company, Diana was arrested for embezzlement. She went to prison, and you restructured the company as Morgan Industries with sole ownership. I pushed the folder toward him. This morning, I received an anonymous text telling me to meet someone at Grand Central. That someone was Diana Harrington. Diana. The name came out strangled. Diana contacted you? She claims she was framed. That someone wanted both of you out of the way, so they fabricated evidence of embezzlement against her and manipulated you into taking full control of the company. I watched his face carefully. She says the architect is the person who framed her, and that they've been waiting 15 years for the right moment to take the company back. Nicholas moved to the window, his back to me. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Diana and I met in business school. We were both ambitious, both brilliant, both convinced we could change the world. We built Harrington Morgan Industries from nothing, just an idea and a startup loan we could barely afford. He turned, and the pain in his expression nearly broke me. She was my best friend. More than that. He stopped, struggling with the words. I trusted her completely. And when the FBI showed me evidence that she'd been stealing from the company, from our clients, using our business as a front for fraud, it destroyed me. Nicholas. I visited her in prison once. Just once. I asked her why she'd done it, why she'd thrown everything away. And she looked at me with such hatred, Sophie. She said I'd betrayed her, that I'd set her up to take the fall, that I'd stolen the company from her. His voice cracked. I didn't believe her. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, forged signatures, testimony from witnesses. I thought she was lying to justify what she'd done. What if she wasn't lying? I asked gently. What if someone framed both of you? Turned you against each other so they could take control? Then I've spent 15 years believing a lie. He looked at me, and I saw a man whose entire foundation was crumbling. I built this company on her grave, Sophie. I told myself I was saving her legacy, honoring what we'd started together. But if she was innocent... You're both victims, I said firmly. Someone manipulated you. Used your trust against you. That's not your fault. Isn't it? His laugh was hollow. I should have dug deeper. Should have questioned the evidence. Should have believed her when she said she was framed. But I was so hurt, so betrayed that I just accepted it. I opened the folder, spreading out the documents Diana had given me. Look at this. These are the original corporate filings. Then these, I pointed to documents from 6 months later, show the restructuring after Diana's arrest. But look at the timing. The embezzlement charges were filed exactly 2 days after you and Diana secured a major investment deal that would have made Harrington Morgan Industries a serious player in the market. Nicholas leaned over the desk, studying the documents with the intense focus of someone looking for salvation in paper trails. Someone didn't want you to succeed, I continued. Someone wanted Diana out of the way and you isolated, so they could position themselves to take control later. They just didn't count on you being brilliant enough to turn the company into a billion-dollar empire. The architect, Nicholas breathed, has been playing the long game for 15 years. And now they're making their final move. I pulled out the surveillance photos Diana had given me. Nicholas, someone inside your company has been photographing everyone who enters and exits your office. Including me. We have a mole. His eyes scanned the photos, his expression darkening with each image. These angles. These were taken from inside the building. Someone with unrestricted access to executive floors. Someone you trust. Someone close enough to track your movements without raising suspicion. I hesitated, then added, Diana thinks it might be someone you trust absolutely. Maybe even someone you consider a friend. Nicholas was quiet for a long moment, his mind clearly racing through possibilities. Then his eyes widened with realization and horror. No, he said. It can't be. The door to the executive suite burst open. Victoria stood in the doorway, her usually perfect composure shattered. Her eyes were wide with panic, and there was blood on her white blouse. Mr. Morgan, she gasped. It's Lawrence Patel. He's dead. Time seemed to stop. What? Nicholas moved toward her. What are you talking about? Security found him 30 minutes ago in his office. Apparent suicide. He left a note confessing to embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy. Victoria's hands were shaking. But Mr. Morgan, I don't think it was suicide. The angle of the wound, the position of the body, it's all wrong. He was murdered, I said, the words tasting like ash. Someone killed him and staged it as a suicide. The police are on their way, Victoria continued. They'll want to question everyone. The board is convening an emergency meeting. The media, God, the media is going to crucify us. Nicholas's face had gone pale. Lawrence was supposed to be in the board meeting with me this morning. He never showed up. I assumed he was avoiding me because he knew I was getting close to the truth. He was avoiding someone, I said. But not you. The architect. He must have realized he was a liability, tried to run, and they silenced him. This is my fault. Nicholas's voice was hollow. I pushed too hard. Asked too many questions yesterday in the board meeting. Whoever the architect is, they knew I was suspicious. So they eliminated their loose end. It's not your fault, I started. A man is dead, Sophie. His voice cracked with anguish. A man who worked for me for 12 years, who I trusted, who betrayed me, and now he's dead because I couldn't figure out who was pulling his strings fast enough. Victoria cleared her throat. Mr. Morgan, there's more. The suicide note, it implicates you. It claims you've been aware of the embezzlement for years, that you were taking a cut. Lawrence wrote that he couldn't live with the guilt anymore and that you were planning to make him the fall guy. The room spun. They're framing Nicholas, I said. Just like they framed Diana 15 years ago. Lawrence's death isn't just about eliminating a loose end, it's about destroying Nicholas's credibility. If the police believe that suicide note, I'll be arrested for conspiracy to commit fraud, Nicholas finished. Removed from the company. And the architect swoops in to save Morgan Industries from its corrupt CEO. Who found the body? I asked Victoria. Security. Routine patrol noticed Lawrence's office light was still on from last night. And the suicide note? Where was it? On his computer. A document file last saved at 3 a.m. this morning. I looked at Nicholas. Lawrence Patel was murdered between midnight and 3 a.m. The killer used his computer to type a suicide note, staging everything to look like he'd been working late, overcome with guilt, and decided to end it. How do you know when he was killed? Victoria asked. Because I studied the surveillance photos Diana gave me. Lawrence left the building at 11:47 p.m. last night. I have a time-stamped image of him walking out. I pulled up the photo on my phone, showing it to both of them. Someone let themselves into his office after he left, or they followed him back in under duress. Nicholas moved to the window, staring out at the city. The police will arrest me. Even if I'm innocent, the scandal alone will destroy the company. The Clemens deal will collapse, shareholders will panic, and Morgan Industries will be vulnerable. Which is exactly what the architect wants, I said. They've been patient for 15 years. They can wait a few more days while you're under investigation, the company's value plummets, and they can acquire it for nothing. So what do we do? Victoria asked. She'd recovered some of her composure, though her hands were still shaking. How do we prove Mr. Morgan is innocent? We find the architect before the police arrive, I said. We have, what? 20 minutes? 30. You're insane, Victoria said. That's impossible. Not impossible. I moved to the whiteboard, my mind racing. The architect made a mistake. They had to act fast to kill Lawrence and stage the suicide. Fast means sloppy. Sloppy means evidence. What kind of evidence? Nicholas asked, turning from the window. Access logs. Security footage. Digital footprints. I grabbed a marker. Lawrence's office. Who has keycard access besides him? Executive staff, Victoria said. The board members. Senior management. Security personnel. That's at least 30 people, Nicholas said. We can't investigate 30 people in 20 minutes. We don't have to investigate 30 people. We investigate the one person who had the most to gain from Lawrence's death and your arrest. I wrote on the whiteboard, who benefits? The architect, Victoria said. Yes, but who is the architect? I turned to Nicholas. Think. Who has been with the company long enough to orchestrate a 15-year plan? Who has access to sensitive information? Who could manipulate board members, executives, and financial records without raising suspicion? Nicholas's eyes moved across the whiteboard, tracking the web of conspiracy we'd mapped out over the past 2 days. Then his gaze stopped on one name. One connection we'd noted but never fully examined. His face went white. Oh God, he whispered. It can't be. Please tell me it can't be. The door opened again. This time, it was Richard Castellano, one of the board members implicated in the conspiracy. He was older, distinguished, with silver hair and the kind of calm authority that made people trust him instantly. He'd been on Nicholas's board for 8 years, one of his most trusted advisors. Nicholas, Richard said, his voice heavy with concern. I just heard about Lawrence. This is terrible. Absolutely terrible. He moved into the room, his eyes sweeping over the whiteboard, the scattered documents, the surveillance photos. What's all this? Richard. Nicholas's voice was carefully controlled. What are you doing here? The board meeting isn't until this afternoon. I wanted to check on you. Make sure you were holding up. Richard's eyes landed on me, and something flickered in his expression. Ms. Bennett. Still investigating, I see. Warning bells screamed in my head. How did you know I was investigating? I asked carefully. Nicholas mentioned you were helping with some financial analysis. Richard smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I think it's wonderful that he's giving you more responsibility. You're clearly very talented. Richard, Nicholas said slowly, where were you last night between midnight and 3 a.m.? The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Richard's smile never wavered. Home, sleeping. Why do you ask? Lawrence Patel was murdered last night. Someone killed him and staged it to look like suicide. Nicholas took a step toward Richard. Someone who knew about the embezzlement. Someone who needed to eliminate a loose end before I could question him. Someone who's been manipulating this company for 15 years. That's a serious accusation, Nicholas. Richard's tone was still pleasant, but there was steel underneath. You're under a lot of stress. The company, this investigation, Lawrence's death, it's clearly affecting your judgment. Is it? Nicholas pulled out his phone, showing Richard the surveillance photos. Then explain why you've been photographing everyone who enters and exits my office. Explain why your keycard was used to access Lawrence's office at 1:47 a.m. last night. Explain, his voice turned to ice, why you framed Diana Harrington 15 years ago. Richard's pleasant expression finally cracked. You always were too clever for your own good, Nicholas. His voice changed, losing the avuncular warmth and revealing something cold underneath. Just like Diana. She figured it out too, you know. Right before I framed her. She was going to expose me, ruin everything I'd worked for. So I removed her. You destroyed her life, Nicholas said, his voice shaking with rage. You made me believe she'd betrayed me. You turned us against each other. I saved you from her. Richard's composure shattered completely. Diana would have destroyed this company with her bleeding heart policies and ethical guidelines. She cared more about doing the right thing than making money. You, at least, understood business. I thought if I removed her and gave you control, you'd build something profitable. Something I could eventually acquire. But Nicholas succeeded beyond your expectations, I said, the pieces clicking into place. He turned Morgan Industries into an empire. So you had to wait. Had to be patient. Had to plan the perfect takedown. Richard turned his cold gaze on me. You're remarkably perceptive, Ms. Bennett. Just like Diana was. Which is why you're a problem. He pulled a gun from his jacket. Victoria screamed. Nicholas moved instinctively in front of me. And I realized with crystal clarity that we were about to die in this executive suite, murdered by a man who'd spent 15 years playing the long game. Richard, don't do this, Nicholas said, his voice steady despite the gun pointed at his chest. The police are already on their way. Killing us won't save you. Won't it? Richard smiled. Lawrence's suicide note implicates you, Nicholas. When the police arrive and find you dead, killed by your paranoid assistant who couldn't handle the pressure of discovering her boss was a criminal, it'll be the perfect ending. Tragic. Clean. And I'll be the grieving board member who steps in to save the company from scandal. They'll investigate, I said. They'll find evidence. What evidence? The files you've compiled? I'll destroy them. The surveillance photos? Gone. Diana's testimony? The word of a convicted felon against a respected board member. Richard's laugh was chilling. I've been covering my tracks for 15 years. You think I'd leave loose ends now? You're wrong, Victoria said quietly from the doorway. Richard turned, and Victoria held up her phone. I've been recording this entire conversation, she said, her voice steady despite her pale face. Every word. Every confession. And I've already sent it to my personal email, to Mr. Morgan's lawyer, and to the police commissioner. You're done, Mr. Castellano. For a moment, Richard just stared at her. Then his face contorted with rage, and he swung the gun toward Victoria. Nicholas lunged, tackling Richard to the ground. The gun went off, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. The bullet embedded in the ceiling. They struggled, Richard fighting like a man with nothing to lose, Nicholas fighting to protect everyone he cared about. I grabbed the nearest heavy object, a crystal award from Nicholas's desk, and brought it down on Richard's wrist. He screamed, and the gun clattered across the floor. Victoria kicked it away, then immediately called security. Within seconds, security guards burst into the room, followed by the police who'd arrived to investigate Lawrence's death. They found Nicholas pinning Richard to the ground, me standing over them with a crystal award raised like a weapon, and Victoria calmly explaining that she had a recorded confession to multiple murders and a 15-year conspiracy. Richard Castellano was arrested on the spot. And just like that, it was over. The police station at 2 a.m. was a special kind of hell. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. The smell of bad coffee and desperation clung to the air. And I'd been sitting in this interrogation room for 6 hours, answering the same questions over and over until the words stopped making sense. Tell us again what happened. How did you discover the conspiracy? What was your relationship with Lawrence Patel? Did you have any communication with Diana Harrington before today? I'd told them everything. About the accidental text. About Nicholas giving me access to investigate. About Diana's meeting at Grand Central. About the surveillance photos and the embezzlement trail and Richard's confession that Victoria had so brilliantly recorded. But apparently, everything wasn't enough. Ms. Bennett, Detective Rodriguez said, sliding another coffee across the table. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, with the exhausted look of someone who'd seen too much human ugliness. I need you to understand something. Richard Castellano has very expensive lawyers. They're already claiming the confession was coerced, that Victoria's recording was obtained illegally, that you and Mr. Morgan orchestrated this entire situation to frame him. That's insane, I said, my voice hoarse from talking. We have evidence. Financial records, communication logs, surveillance photos. All of which could be fabricated, according to his legal team. Detective Rodriguez leaned forward. They're painting you as a disgraced forensic accountant with a vendetta against corporate executives. They're saying you manipulated Mr. Morgan, exploited his trust, and created false evidence to support a conspiracy theory. The words hit like a physical blow. They're using my past against me. Hartwell and Associates. They're using everything they can find. Your termination. The embezzlement scandal you were involved in. Your previous accusations of fraud that destroyed your career. She wasn't unkind, just stating facts. Richard Castellano's lawyers are very good at their jobs. What about Diana Harrington? She can testify. Diana Harrington is a convicted felon who served 3 years for embezzlement. Her testimony won't hold up against Castellano's reputation. Detective Rodriguez sighed. Look, I believe you. I think you uncovered something real, something dangerous. But belief isn't enough. We need ironclad evidence that will hold up in court against a man with unlimited resources and a legal team that could get the devil acquitted. So what are you saying? That Richard walks free. I'm saying this is going to be a very long, very ugly legal battle. And in the meantime, she pulled out another document, sliding it across the table. Morgan Industries Board of Directors has issued this statement. I read it, and my heart sank. In light of recent events and serious allegations of fraud and conspiracy, the Board of Directors of Morgan Industries has voted to place CEO Nicholas Morgan on indefinite administrative leave pending a full investigation. Furthermore, Ms. Sophie Bennett's employment has been terminated effective immediately. The board wishes to assure shareholders and clients that these actions demonstrate our commitment to transparency and corporate integrity. They fired us, I whispered. Both of us. Monica Hayes assumed interim CEO position 2 hours ago, Detective Rodriguez said. She's the other board member you identified as part of the conspiracy, correct? Yes. She was working with Richard and Lawrence. My hands clenched into fists. She's covering her tracks. Getting rid of everyone who knows the truth. Then prove it. Find evidence that directly links Monica Hayes to the conspiracy. Because right now, all we have is Richard's confession, which his lawyers are already tearing apart, and a series of suspicious financial transactions that could have dozens of explanations. A knock on the door interrupted us. A uniformed officer poked his head in. "Detective? Mr. Morgan's lawyer is here. He's requesting his client be released immediately." "Morgan's not under arrest," Rodriguez said. "He can leave whenever he wants. Ms. Bennett too." I stood on shaky legs, every muscle aching from exhaustion and stress. "Where's Nicholas?" "Interview room 3. Down the hall, take a left." I found him sitting alone, his suit rumpled, his tie long gone, his usually perfect hair disheveled. He looked up when I entered, and the devastation in his eyes nearly broke me. "Sophie." He stood immediately. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "I'm fine. Just tired." I moved closer, noticing the bruise forming on his jaw from his fight with Richard. "You're hurt." "It's nothing." He touched the bruise absently. "They told me about the board's decision. We're both out." Monica Hayes moved fast. She had to. We were getting too close to exposing her too. Nicholas moved to the window. Even police station interview rooms had windows, apparently. "My lawyer says the criminal case against Richard could take years. Civil litigation even longer. And in the meantime, Monica will dismantle everything I built. The Clemens deal will proceed exactly as planned now that I'm out of the way. Morgan Industries will acquire a worthless shell company, face massive lawsuits, and Monica will position herself as the savior who rescues the company by selling it to whoever's been financing this conspiracy from the beginning." His reflection in the window looked haunted. "I've lost, Sophie. They won." "No." I moved to stand beside him. "We haven't lost. We just need more time." "Time for what? To watch my company be destroyed? To see everyone who trusted me lose their jobs?" He finally looked at me, and the pain in his expression was raw. "I dragged you into this. Gave you hope that you could use your skills again, that you could have purpose again. And now you're fired, being smeared by Richard's lawyers, and probably facing legal action yourself. I made my own choices. Because I asked you to investigate. Because I trusted you with classified information and put a target on your back." His voice cracked. "Lawrence is dead because of me. You were nearly shot because of me. And now your career is destroyed again. Stop." I grabbed his arm, forcing him to face me. "Lawrence is dead because Richard Castellano is a murderer. I was nearly shot because Richard is desperate and dangerous. And my career was destroyed 2 years ago at Hartwell & Associates, not by you, but by people like Richard who'd rather destroy whistleblowers than face consequences." "Sophie." "I'm not done." I stepped closer, my hand still on his arm. "Yes, this is bad. Yes, we're both out of Morgan Industries. Yes, Richard has expensive lawyers and Monica is covering her tracks. But we're alive, Nicholas. We survived. And we have evidence, we have Diana's testimony, we have Victoria's recording. None of which will hold up in court according to the detective who just spent 6 hours interrogating me. Then we find evidence that will hold up." I refused to let go of his arm, refused to let him sink into despair. "We find the paper trail that connects Monica directly to Richard. We find the architect's financial backer. We find proof that Diana was framed 15 years ago." "How?" "We don't have access to Morgan Industries files anymore. We don't have security clearance. We don't have," he stopped, his eyes widening. "Diana. We need Diana. She's been investigating this for 15 years. She must have copies of original documents, evidence that predates the cover-up." Hope flared in my chest. If we can prove Diana was innocent, it undermines everything Richard built his empire on. Nicholas pulled out his phone, then cursed. "Monica's already blocked my access to company databases. I can't reach Diana's contact information. I have it." I pulled out the burner phone Diana had given me. She gave me a way to contact her. For the first time since I'd entered the room, Nicholas's expression lightened. "Call her. Now." I dialed the number. It rang once. Twice. 3 times. "Pick up," I whispered. "Please pick up." On the 5th ring, Diana answered. "Sophie? What happened?" "I've been monitoring the news. Richard Castellano arrested. Lawrence Patel dead, you and Nicholas fired. We need your help, I said. All the evidence you've gathered over 15 years. Everything you have that proves you were framed. We need it now. There was a pause. Then, meet me at my apartment. 1 hour. I'll have everything ready. She rattled off an address in Brooklyn. And Sophie? Be careful. If Monica Hayes has taken control of Morgan Industries, she'll be tying up loose ends. That means anyone who knows the truth is in danger. We'll be careful. One more thing. Diana's voice turned serious. Bring Nicholas. It's time we talked. The call ended. I looked at Nicholas. Brooklyn. 1 hour. I'll drive. His car was still parked outside the police station, a sleek black Mercedes that screamed wealth and power even when its owner had just been fired and publicly humiliated. The drive to Brooklyn was quiet, both of us lost in thought. It was nearly 3 a.m. when we pulled up to Diana's building, a renovated brownstone in Park Slope that spoke of modest success but nothing like the empire she'd once co-owned. Nicholas stared up at the building, his hands gripping the steering wheel. I haven't seen her in 15 years, he said quietly. The last time we spoke, she called me a traitor and said she'd destroy me if it was the last thing she did. She was hurt. Angry. Framed for crimes she didn't commit. I touched his hand. But she contacted me to help you, Nicholas. Not to hurt you. She wants the truth to come out. The truth that I abandoned her. That I believed Richard's lies instead of trusting my best friend. The truth that you were both victims. We climbed the stairs to Diana's third-floor apartment. She opened the door before we could knock, dressed in jeans and a sweater, her silver-streaked hair loose around her shoulders, looking nothing like the polished businesswoman who'd met me at Grand Central. Her eyes locked onto Nicholas, and the air between them crackled with 15 years of pain, betrayal, and unfinished business. Hello, Nicholas, she said quietly. Diana. His voice was thick with emotion. I'm so sorry. For everything. For not believing you. For taking the company. For... Stop. Diana held up a hand. We don't have time for apologies right now. Come in. Both of you. Her apartment was filled with files. Boxes upon boxes of documents, photographs, financial records. 15 years of investigation covering every available surface. I've dedicated my life to this, Diana said, gesturing to the organized chaos. Every day since I got out of prison, I've been gathering evidence. Following money trails. Tracking Richard's movements. Building a case. Why didn't you go to the authorities? Nicholas asked. I tried. Multiple times. Diana's smile was bitter. But I'm a convicted felon, Nicholas. Nobody believes convicted felons when they claim they were framed. So I waited. Gathered more evidence. Hoped that one day, someone would listen. I'm listening now, Nicholas said. I believe you now. And I'm sorry it took 15 years and almost losing everything for me to realize the truth. Diana studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Apology noted. Now let's destroy Richard Castellano and Monica Hayes. She pulled out a file box, setting it on the cleared dining table. This is everything I have that proves I was framed. Original bank records showing the embezzlement transactions originated from an IP address registered to Richard Castellano's home computer. Testimony from a former FBI agent who admits he was paid to falsify evidence. Communication logs between Richard and Monica planning the frame job. This is incredible, I said, rifling through the documents. This is everything we need. It's not enough, Diana interrupted. Richard's lawyers will claim these documents are forgeries. That I manufactured evidence over 15 years to support my vendetta. We need something current. Something that proves Monica Hayes is actively continuing the conspiracy right now. The Clemens deal, Nicholas said. If we can prove the fake Clemens International is connected to Monica, then we have her. Diana pulled out another file. I've been tracking Clemens International's financial records. The shell company was created 8 months ago using offshore accounts. Those accounts are registered to a series of holding companies, all of which trace back to. She spread out a financial flowchart that would make any forensic accountant weep with joy. A trust fund established 15 years ago in the name of Monica Hayes's daughter. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Monica has been planning this since the beginning, I said. She wasn't just Richard's accomplice. She's been his partner for 15 years. More than partner, Diana said. Look at this. She pulled out a marriage certificate dated 17 years ago. Monica Hayes and Richard Castellano. They were married for 2 years, then quietly divorced right before the Harrington Morgan Industries frame job. They're working together, Nicholas breathed. Have been the entire time. The divorce was fake. A strategic separation to avoid suspicion, I finished. If anyone connected the dots, they'd see Richard on the board and Monica on the board, but they wouldn't think to investigate their past relationship. Which means Monica knew about Richard's confession yesterday, Diana said grimly. She knew he'd been arrested. And she's probably already implementing their contingency plan. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello. Ms. Bennett. It was Victoria, but her voice was wrong. Terrified. They have me. Monica Hayes and 2 men I don't recognize. They're saying, oh God, they're saying they'll kill me if you don't bring them all your evidence within the next 2 hours. Victoria. The phone was taken from her. Monica Hayes's cool, professional voice came through. Ms. Bennett. I believe you have something that belongs to me. 15 years of evidence that Diana Harrington has been hoarding like a dragon with her treasure. Let Victoria go, I said, putting the phone on speaker so Nicholas and Diana could hear. She has nothing to do with this. Victoria has everything to do with this. She recorded Richard's confession. That recording is causing problems for me. So here's what's going to happen. Monica's voice was pleasant, businesslike, as if she were negotiating a standard corporate deal. You, Nicholas, and Diana will bring every piece of evidence you have to Morgan Industries. The executive research suite, how fitting. You'll give it all to me. Every document, every recording, every file. And in exchange, Victoria lives. And if we refuse? Nicholas asked, his voice hard. Then I kill Victoria, destroy Morgan Industries completely, and disappear with several $100 million while you 3 spend the rest of your lives trying to prove a conspiracy that no one will believe. Monica's tone didn't change. Oh, and Sophie? I'll make sure your mother knows how her daughter died trying to play detective. I believe she lives in that lovely retirement community in Florida, doesn't she? Shady Pines? Such a nice place. Be a shame if something happened to it. The threat was clear. She wasn't just threatening Victoria. She was threatening everyone we cared about. We'll be there, I said. 2 hours. 90 minutes, Monica corrected. The clock started when I called. Don't be late. The line went dead. Nicholas slammed his fist on the table, making the files jump. She's going to kill us all anyway. Even if we give her the evidence, she can't leave witnesses. I know, Diana said quietly. But we have to try to save Victoria. No. I was already pulling out my laptop, my mind racing. We're not just going to save Victoria. We're going to end this. Tonight. All of it. How? Nicholas asked. We give her the evidence. We lose our only leverage. We don't give her the evidence, Victoria dies. We give her evidence, I said, my fingers flying across the keyboard. Just not the real evidence. We give her forgeries. Documents that look real but are actually worthless. And while we're doing that, we make sure the real evidence gets to someone who can actually do something with it. Diana's eyes lit up. The media. We leak everything to the press. Every document, every photo, every piece of the puzzle. Monica can threaten us all she wants, but she can't threaten a story that's already gone viral. I know a journalist, Nicholas said, pulling out his phone. Investigative reporter for the Times. She's been trying to get dirt on Morgan Industries for years. She'll run this story in a heartbeat. We have 90 minutes, I said. Diana, you scan the most important documents, the marriage certificate, the financial trails, the testimony from the FBI agent. Nicholas, you write a summary explaining the entire conspiracy from start to finish. I'll create convincing forgeries to give Monica. What about the police? Diana asked. Detective Rodriguez. She believed me. I pulled out the card she'd given me. I'll send her copies of everything too. Multiple agencies, multiple copies. By the time we walk into that executive suite, the story will be everywhere. Monica won't be able to contain it. For the first time since Richard's arrest, Nicholas smiled. Not a big smile, but real. We're going to burn it all down. Every single piece, Diana agreed. Starting with Monica Hayes. We worked like demons for the next hour. Diana's scanner ran constantly, digitizing 15 years of evidence. Nicholas typed furiously, creating a comprehensive timeline of the conspiracy. I used every forgery trick I'd learned in forensic accounting to create documents that would pass a cursory inspection but fall apart under scrutiny. At 4:30 a.m., I hit send on emails to Detective Rodriguez, the Times journalist, and 3 major news networks. Within minutes, my phone started ringing off the hook. The story was out. It's everywhere, Nicholas said, staring at his phone. Twitter's exploding. The hashtag Morgan Industries scandal is trending. Monica's going to know we leaked it, Diana warned. Good, I said. Let her know we're not helpless victims anymore. We loaded the fake evidence into a briefcase and headed back to Manhattan. The city was just starting to wake up, early commuters trickling into subway stations, delivery trucks making their rounds, the sky lightening from black to deep blue. Morgan Industries loomed ahead of us, the building that had been Nicholas's entire life for 15 years. Now it was a trap. A place where we'd either save Victoria and expose the conspiracy completely, or die trying. Whatever happens in there, Nicholas said as we parked, I want you both to know something. Diana, you were the best partner I ever had. I'm sorry I didn't see the truth sooner. And Sophie, he turned to me, his gray eyes intense. You're the most brilliant, brave, infuriating person I've ever met. And if we survive this, Tell me after, I interrupted, my heart hammering. Tell me everything after we survive. He nodded, and we walked into Morgan Industries together. Into the darkest hour. Into whatever end Monica Hayes had planned. But this time, we weren't walking in blind. This time, we were ready to fight back. The executive research suite had never felt more like a tomb. Monica Hayes sat behind the desk, Nicholas's desk, with the casual confidence of someone who'd already won. She wore an impeccable charcoal suit, her dark hair pulled into a flawless chignon, her red lipstick perfectly applied despite the 5 a.m. hour. 2 men flanked her, both built like former military, both holding guns with the ease of people who'd used them before. And in the corner, tied to a chair with duct tape over her mouth, was Victoria. Her eyes were wide with terror, but she was alive. Bruised, but alive. Right on time, Monica said, checking her watch. I appreciate punctuality. It's such a rare quality these days. Her gaze swept over the 3 of us, Nicholas, Diana, and me. The disgraced CEO, the convicted felon, and the disaster assistant. Quite the team you've assembled, Nicholas. Let Victoria go, Nicholas said, his voice deadly calm. We brought what you wanted. I held up the briefcase containing our carefully crafted forgeries. 15 years of evidence. Everything Diana collected. Every document proving you and Richard framed her. Place it on the desk, Monica instructed. Slowly. I did as she asked, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. One of the armed men moved forward to inspect the briefcase's contents. He pulled out files, flipped through documents, nodded to Monica. Impressive, Monica said, rifling through the papers. Diana, you've been busy. Financial records, testimony, communication logs. This would be quite damning if anyone believed it. She looked up at Diana with cold amusement. But they won't. You're a convicted criminal. Your word means nothing. My word might not, Diana said. But evidence doesn't lie. Evidence can be fabricated, manipulated, made to tell whatever story the most convincing liar wants it to tell. Monica's smile was razor-sharp. I should know. I've been doing it for 17 years. Why? Nicholas asked. The question came out raw, painful. Why go through all this? The conspiracy, the murders, destroying Diana, destroying me, what was the point? The point? Monica laughed. Nicholas, you really are beautifully naive. The point was power. Money. Control. She stood, moving around the desk with predatory grace. 17 years ago, Richard and I were nobody. Mid-level executives at a failing company, drowning in debt, watching people like you and Diana build empires while we scraped by. We were smarter than you, hungrier than you, but you had connections. Family money. Opportunities we'd never have. So you decided to steal them, Diana said flatly. We decided to take what should have been ours. Monica's eyes glittered. When you and Nicholas founded Harrington Morgan Industries, we saw our chance. A young, naive company with two idealistic leaders who actually believed in things like ethics and integrity. It was laughably easy to infiltrate. Richard joined your board, I positioned myself as a consultant, and we waited. You waited for us to build something worth stealing, Nicholas said. Exactly. We knew if we were patient, if we played our roles perfectly, we could take everything you built and make it ours. Monica's gaze shifted to Diana. You were the obstacle. Too smart, too ethical, too damn stubborn to be manipulated. So we removed you. Framed you for embezzlement, sent you to prison, and watched Nicholas take over the company. You thought I'd run it into the ground, Nicholas said, understanding dawning. You expected me to fail without Diana. We gave you 5 years. Maybe 10 if you were lucky. Monica shrugged. But you surprised us. You turned Morgan Industries into a billion-dollar empire. You made it so successful that we couldn't simply buy it. We'd need hundreds of millions we didn't have. So we had to get creative. The Clemens deal, I said. A decade-long plan to bankrupt the company and buy it for nothing. Very good, Ms. Bennett. I can see why Nicholas kept you around despite your disastrous track record. Monica's smile was vicious. The Clemens deal would have bankrupted Morgan Industries, destroyed Nicholas's reputation, and allowed us to acquire the company for pennies on the dollar. We'd finally have everything we deserved. You don't deserve anything, Nicholas said, his voice shaking with rage. You're thieves. Murderers. You killed Lawrence. Lawrence was weak. He was going to crack, confess everything to save his own skin. We couldn't allow that. Monica's expression didn't change, as if she were discussing firing an incompetent employee rather than murder. Just like we can't allow any of you to live. The armed men raised their guns. Wait, I said quickly. Before you kill us, don't you want to know if we told anyone about this? Don't you want to know if there are copies of that evidence somewhere? Monica's eyes narrowed. Nice try, Ms. Bennett. But I'm not stupid enough to fall for. Her phone rang. She glanced at it, and for the first time, her composed expression cracked. What the hell? She answered, listened for 10 seconds, and her face went from confident to furious to panicked in rapid succession. What do you mean it's everywhere? She hissed into the phone. Who leaked? No, I don't care about damage control, I want to know who. She looked up at us, rage burning in her eyes. You leaked the evidence. Every major news outlet, Diana said calmly. The Times, The Post, CNN, MSNBC. By now, millions of people know about your conspiracy. About Richard's arrest. About the 15-year frame job. About everything. Social media too, I added. It's trending on Twitter. The hashtag is #Morgan Industries Scandal. People are already calling for congressional investigations. Nicholas pulled out his phone, showing Monica the screen. It's over, Monica. Even if you kill us, the story is out. The evidence is public. You can't contain it. Then I'll kill you anyway, Monica snarled. Out of spite if nothing else. I wouldn't do that if I were you, a new voice said from the doorway. Detective Rodriguez stood there, flanked by 6 uniformed officers with guns drawn. Behind them, I could see more police flooding the executive floor. Monica Hayes, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, kidnapping, fraud, and about 15 other charges I'll enjoy reading to you. Rodriguez moved into the room, her weapon trained on Monica. Drop your weapons. Now. The 2 armed men looked at Monica. For a moment, I thought they might actually try to fight. But even they weren't stupid enough to face down 7 cops with automatic weapons. They dropped their guns. Monica's face went white with impotent rage as Rodriguez cuffed her. How? Monica started. Anonymous tip, Rodriguez said. Someone sent me detailed evidence of your crimes, including recordings of this conversation from about. She checked her watch, 3 minutes ago. Turns out, Ms. Bennett here is smarter than you gave her credit for. I pulled out my phone, showing the active recording app. I've been streaming this entire conversation to Detective Rodriguez, the FBI, and about 6 different news outlets. Every threat you made, every confession, everything. It's all documented. Monica's expression twisted into pure hatred. You little. Save it for your lawyer, Rodriguez interrupted, hauling her toward the door. Though I have to warn you, with this much evidence, even the best lawyer in the world isn't getting you out of this. As Monica was led away in handcuffs, one of the officers untied Victoria. She ripped off the duct tape and immediately started crying, huge gasping sobs of relief. It's okay, I said, pulling her into a hug. You're safe. It's over. I was so scared, Victoria choked out. She said she was going to kill all of you, and I couldn't warn you, couldn't do anything. But you did do something, Nicholas said gently. You recorded Richard's confession. That recording started all of this. You saved us, Victoria. She nodded, still crying, and Nicholas pulled her into a hug while she fell apart. Detective Rodriguez approached Diana and me. That was extremely reckless, Ms. Bennett. Streaming a hostage situation without police backup. You could have gotten everyone killed. I know, I said. But we didn't have time to coordinate with you, and we needed Monica to confess on the record. It was the only way to make sure she couldn't twist the evidence later. Still reckless, Rodriguez said, but her lips twitched into an almost smile. Also brilliant. We have enough evidence now to put away Richard Castellano and Monica Hayes for the rest of their lives. And with Diana's testimony and the documents you leaked to the media, we can reopen Diana Harrington's case. You mean, Diana's voice broke. You'll exonerate me? With evidence this comprehensive? The conviction will be overturned within a month. Rodriguez nodded to her. You'll finally get your name back, Ms. Harrington. Diana's composure cracked. 15 years of fighting, of being called a criminal, of having her reputation destroyed, it all came crashing down. She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Nicholas moved to her side immediately, pulling her into an embrace. I'm so sorry, Diana. I'm so goddamn sorry for not believing you. For taking 15 years to see the truth. You see it now, Diana said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. That's what matters. I watched them, former partners, former friends, torn apart by lies and finally reunited by truth. Something warm and bittersweet swelled in my chest. The sun was rising over Manhattan now, golden light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The executive research suite that had been a prison minutes ago suddenly felt like a place of new beginnings. So what happens now? I asked Detective Rodriguez. To Morgan Industries, I mean. Monica was interim CEO. The board is compromised. The Clemens deal. The board will have to appoint new leadership, Rodriguez said. And the Clemens deal will be investigated thoroughly. But that's not your concern anymore, Ms. Bennett. You're not employed here, remember? Right. The reality of that hit me. We'd stopped the conspiracy, saved Victoria, and exposed the criminals. But I was still unemployed. Still facing the wreckage of my career. Still. Actually, a new voice said from the doorway, I think we can fix that. I turned to see a woman in her 60s, impeccably dressed, with steel gray hair and sharp eyes behind designer glasses. She was flanked by 2 lawyers and exuded the kind of authority that made everyone in the room automatically straighten. Who are you? Nicholas asked. Margaret Jenkins. I represent the majority shareholders of Morgan Industries. She moved into the room with the confidence of someone who owned it. And I have a proposition for all of you. What kind of proposition? Diana asked warily. The kind where you 3 save a company from complete collapse. Margaret pulled out a tablet, showing us financial projections. Thanks to this scandal, Morgan Industries stock has plummeted. Clients are fleeing. Investors are panicking. The company is on the brink of bankruptcy. That's not our problem, I said, though my heart sank at the thought of all those employees losing their jobs. It could be. Margaret's eyes moved to Nicholas. Mr. Morgan, despite everything, you're still the best CEO this company ever had. The shareholders want you back. Full reinstatement, full authority, plus a seat on a newly restructured board. And me? Diana asked. We want to offer you the position of Chief Operating Officer. Equal partnership with Nicholas, just like it should have been from the beginning. Margaret smiled slightly. Consider it 15 years of back pay for a wrongful conviction. Nicholas and Diana looked at each other. 15 years of anger, betrayal, and pain hung between them. But underneath it, I could see something else. The ghost of the partnership they'd once had. The friendship that had been stolen from them. I'll do it, Nicholas said slowly, if Diana agrees. Equal partners. No more secrets, no more lies. Just us, building something real this time. Diana's eyes filled with tears again. Equal partners, she agreed. Margaret turned to me. And you, Ms. Bennett. The shareholders want to offer you the position of Chief Financial Officer. You uncovered a decade-long conspiracy that our entire accounting department missed. You have skills this company desperately needs. My mouth fell open. CFO? But I was fired. You're brilliant, Nicholas said firmly. You're exactly what this company needs. Someone who isn't afraid to ask hard questions. Someone with integrity. His gray eyes held mine. Someone I trust absolutely. The weight of that trust, after everything we'd been through, nearly brought me to my tears. I don't know what to say, I whispered. Say yes, Diana urged. We need you, Sophie. Not just Nicholas, all of us. I looked around the room. At Victoria, still shaky but alive. At Detective Rodriguez, who'd believed me when no one else would. At Diana and Nicholas, former enemies now united. At Margaret Jenkins, offering me a chance to rebuild everything I'd lost. Yes, I said. I'll do it. The smile that broke across Nicholas's face was transformative. Not the Ice King. Not the ruthless CEO. Just a man who'd been given a second chance and wasn't going to waste it. Then it's settled, Margaret said. Emergency board meeting this afternoon to formalize everything. Nicholas Morgan reinstated as CEO, Diana Harrington as COO, Sophie Bennett as CFO. We'll issue a press statement, reassure clients, and start rebuilding immediately. She left with her lawyers, and suddenly it was just the five of us. Nicholas, Diana, Victoria, Detective Rodriguez, and me. I need coffee, Victoria said. And possibly a vacation. And therapy. Definitely therapy. Take the week off, Nicholas said. Paid leave. After what you went through, you've earned it. Victoria nodded gratefully and left with one of the officers who offered to drive her home. Detective Rodriguez checked her phone. I need to get back to the station. Process the arrests, file reports. She looked at the three of us. You did good work here. Risky, reckless, nearly fatal work, but good nonetheless. After she left, it was just Nicholas, Diana, and me in the executive research suite where this had all started 2 days ago. 2 days. It felt like a lifetime. I can't believe it's over, I said softly. It's not over, Diana said. We still have to rebuild the company, testify at Richard and Monica's trials, navigate the media circus. This is just the beginning. But it's a good beginning, Nicholas said. For the first time in 15 years, it feels like a good beginning. Diana smiled, a real smile this time, not bitter or pained. I should go home. Get some actual sleep. Figure out how to be a COO after spending 15 years as a pariah. She moved toward the door, then paused. Nicholas? Thank you. For believing me. Finally. I should have believed you from the start, he said. But you believe me now. That's enough. She left, and then it was just Nicholas and me. The sunrise painted the room in golden light. Manhattan spread out before us, a city waking up to news of scandal and redemption. And between us hung everything unsaid, everything that had built over the past 2 days of danger and trust and growing connection. Sophie, Nicholas said quietly. In the car before we came here, I was trying to tell you something. My heart started racing. I remember. I said I'd tell you after we survived. He moved closer, and suddenly the room felt smaller, more intimate. We survived. We did, I whispered. You're the most brilliant, brave, infuriating person I've ever met, he repeated his words from earlier. And somewhere between you calling me an insufferable ice king and you saving my entire company, He stopped, searching for words. You what? I fell in love with you. The words hung in the air between us, vulnerable and honest and terrifying. Nicholas. You don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I know this is complicated. We work together now. You're my CFO. There are probably rules about. I kissed him. Not gracefully. Not perfectly. Just desperately, standing on my toes, grabbing the front of his rumpled shirt, and kissing him like I'd been wanting to since the moment he'd stood between me and Richard's gun. He froze for half a second, surprised. Then his arms came around me, pulling me closer, kissing me back with an intensity that made my knees weak. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his gray eyes were no longer cold. They were warm. Alive. Happy. I fell in love with you too, I said. Somewhere between you terrifying me in your office and you trusting me to investigate a conspiracy. I fell completely, stupidly in love with you. His smile was beautiful. Stupidly. So stupid, I agreed. You're my boss. This violates like 15 different HR policies. Actually, Nicholas said, his thumb tracing my cheek, as CFO, you report directly to the board, not to me. No HR violations. You've thought about this. I've thought about nothing but you for 2 days, Sophie Bennett. You're brilliant and chaotic, and you turned my entire life upside down with one accidental text message. He kissed me again, softer this time. Best accident of my life. I laughed against his lips. Wait until I tell Chelsea about this. She's going to say, I told you so for the rest of my life. Is Chelsea the friend who was supposed to receive that original text? The very same. She called it a romance novel situation. I pulled back slightly to look at him. She was right. A romance novel where we nearly died multiple times, Nicholas pointed out. The best kind, I said, and kissed him again. We stood there as the sun rose higher, Manhattan waking up around us, the scandal that would dominate headlines for months already forgotten in the warmth of this moment. 2 days ago, I'd accidentally texted my cold billionaire boss and uncovered a conspiracy. Now that same boss was holding me like I was the most precious thing in his world. And somehow, impossibly, everything was going to be okay. 3 months later, the courtroom was packed. I sat in the front row between Nicholas and Diana, watching as the jury filed back in after 6 hours of deliberation. Monica Hayes sat at the defense table with her team of expensive lawyers, her face a mask of composure that couldn't quite hide the desperation in her eyes. Richard Castellano sat beside her, looking older and more haggard than the confident board member who'd pulled a gun on us. Has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Martinez asked. We have, Your Honor, the jury foreman said. My hand found Nicholas's under the armrest. He squeezed it gently, his thumb tracing circles on my palm, a gesture that had become familiar over the past 3 months. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find the defendants? Guilty. On the count of first-degree murder in the death of Lawrence Patel? Guilty. On the count of fraud, embezzlement, and racketeering? Guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Monica's composure finally shattered. She crumpled in her chair, face buried in her hands. Richard simply stared straight ahead, emotionless, as if he'd already accepted his fate. Judge Martinez banged her gavel. Order. Order in the court. She turned to Monica and Richard. You have been found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, murder in the first degree, fraud, embezzlement, racketeering, and numerous other charges. Sentencing will take place in 2 weeks, but I can tell you now, you will both spend the rest of your natural lives in prison. It was over. Really, truly over. As we left the courthouse, we were immediately swarmed by reporters shouting questions. But Nicholas had hired excellent security, and they cleared a path to the waiting car. Inside, Diana let out a long breath. I can't believe it's finally done, she said. 15 years. 15 years of knowing the truth and not being able to prove it. And now? Now you're free, Nicholas said. Completely free. Diana's exoneration had been finalized 2 months ago. The state of New York had issued a formal apology, along with a substantial settlement for wrongful imprisonment. Her record was expunged. Her reputation was restored. And she'd thrown herself into rebuilding Morgan Industries with a ferocity that reminded me why she and Nicholas had been such good partners in the first place. We should celebrate, I said. Dinner? Champagne? Burn an effigy of Monica Hayes. Diana laughed, a sound I'd heard more frequently over the past 3 months. I like the way you think, Sophie. But actually, I have plans tonight. Nicholas and I exchanged glances. Diana had been secretive about her personal life lately, always ducking out early from office events, taking mysterious phone calls with a smile on her face. Plans with whom? Nicholas asked with exaggerated innocence. Diana's cheeks actually colored. If you must know, I'm having dinner with someone. Someone I met at a charity gala last month. Someone. I leaned forward conspiratorially. Does this someone have a name? Dr. Elena Reyes. She's a professor at Columbia. Literature. Diana's smile was soft, almost shy. We've been seeing each other for a few weeks now. Diana Harrington, are you blushing? Nicholas teased. I didn't think that was possible. Oh, shut up. But Diana was smiling. After 15 years of hell, I think I'm entitled to a little happiness. You're entitled to all the happiness, I said firmly. And I expect to meet this Dr. Reyes soon. CFO's orders. Abuse of power, Diana protested, but she was still smiling as the car pulled up to Morgan Industries. The past 3 months had been a whirlwind. The media had gone absolutely feral over the scandal. The conspiracy that almost destroyed a billion-dollar empire had been the headline of choice. My accidental text message had become legendary in business circles. Someone had even created a meme out of it. But beneath the media circus, we'd been working like demons to save the company. The Clemens deal had been dismantled, the fake Clemens International exposed and shut down. We'd had to lay off some employees who were connected to the conspiracy, but we'd managed to save most of the jobs. New board members had been appointed, people Nicholas and Diana vetted personally, people with integrity and transparent backgrounds. And slowly, gradually, Morgan Industries had started to recover. Client trust was returning. Stock prices were climbing back up. The company Nicholas had spent 15 years building, and Diana had been robbed of, was finally becoming what it was always meant to be, an ethical, successful empire built on actual merit instead of lies. As we walked into the building, employees congratulated us on the verdict. Victoria, who'd been promoted to executive director of operations, met us in the lobby with tablets showing the social media response. It's everywhere, she said, scrolling through posts. Justice served, villains defeated, Morgan Industries vindicated. The stock is already up 3%. Good, Nicholas said. We have a company to run. Sophie, Diana, conference room in 20 minutes? We need to discuss the expansion into European markets. I'll be there, Diana said, heading toward her office. Nicholas and I took the elevator to the executive floor. 3 months ago, I'd been a disaster assistant fetching coffee. Now I had my own office, CFO emblazoned on the door, a team of talented analysts working under me, and the respect of an entire company that had watched me help expose a conspiracy. But the best part wasn't the title or the office or even the vindication of my skills. The best part was Nicholas. We'd been careful at first, both of us aware of how the company might react to the CEO and CFO dating. But word had gotten out anyway, I suspected Victoria, though she denied it with a completely unconvincing innocent face, and the response had been supportive. Overwhelmingly supportive. Apparently, the employees found our relationship adorable, and were invested in what they called the disaster assistant who saved the CEO's heart. I still wasn't sure how I felt about being called a disaster. But the rest was pretty accurate. Nicholas pulled me into his office before I could reach mine. The door had barely closed before he was kissing me, the kind of kiss that made my brain short-circuit and reminded me why dating your boss, who technically wasn't your boss but whatever, was both the best and most distracting decision ever. We have a meeting in 20 minutes, I mumbled against his lips. 19 now, he corrected, his hands sliding up my back. But who's counting? Nicholas, but I was kissing him back, my fingers tangling in his hair, 3 months together, and I still couldn't get enough of him. Someone cleared their throat. We broke apart to find Diana standing in the doorway, looking supremely amused. You two are aware that this office has glass walls, right? The entire floor can see you making out like teenagers. My face went hot. Nicholas just laughed. Then they'll know the rumors are true. The rumors that you're disgustingly happy together? Diana's smile was genuine. I think they figured that out weeks ago. She held up her tablet. But we really do need to discuss the European expansion. The Munich office is requesting additional resources, and the London team wants to accelerate their timeline. Fine, Nicholas said, not letting go of my hand. But for the record, I'm not even slightly sorry for being disgustingly happy. Good, Diana said. You've earned it. Both of you. The meeting lasted 2 hours. We discussed expansion strategies, market analysis, resource allocation, all the things that made my forensic accounting brain light up with joy. This was what I'd always wanted, to use my skills for something meaningful, to be part of building something real, to work with people who valued integrity over shortcuts. And I got to do it all while sitting across from the man I loved. After the meeting, I returned to my office to find Chelsea waiting. She'd become a regular visitor to Morgan Industries, ostensibly to have lunch with her best friend, but really to gossip about my relationship and remind me that she'd called it from day one. How was court? She asked, sprawling in my office chair like she owned it. Guilty on all counts. Life in prison. Good. They deserved worse, but I'll take it. Chelsea studied me. You look happy. Like, genuinely happy. Not I'm pretending everything is fine happy. Real happy. I am happy, I admitted. Is that weird? After everything that happened, the danger, the murders, nearly dying, I'm happier now than I've been in years. That's not weird. That's you finally getting what you deserved all along. Chelsea stood, pulling me into a hug. A career that uses your brilliant brain. A boss who appreciates you. And a stupidly attractive billionaire boyfriend who looks at you like you hung the moon. He doesn't. He absolutely does. I've seen it. Everyone's seen it. She grinned. The disaster assistant who saved the empire and won the CEO's heart. It's literally a fairy tale, sophomore. A fairy tale with corporate espionage and attempted murder. The best kind, Chelsea said, and we both laughed. That evening, Nicholas took me to dinner at an exclusive restaurant overlooking Central Park. We'd been here before. It had become our place, somewhere we could talk without the pressure of the office or the scrutiny of employees. I have something for you, Nicholas said after we'd ordered. He pulled out a small box, and my heart stopped. Nicholas. It's not that, he said quickly, though his smile was knowing. Not yet, anyway. But soon. The promise in those words made my breath catch. I opened the box to find a key. My apartment key? I asked, confused. Your apartment key, he corrected. To the penthouse. I want you to move in with me, Sophie. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to make breakfast with you. I want to build a life with you, not just a relationship. Tears pricked my eyes. You're serious. I've never been more serious about anything. He took my hand across the table. I know it's only been 3 months. I know some people will say it's too fast. But when you've nearly died together multiple times and rebuilt a company from scandal, 3 months feels like a lifetime. And I don't want to waste another day not living with the woman I love. Yes, I said, my voice breaking. Yes, I'll move in with you. Yes to all of it. His smile was brilliant. I was hoping you'd say that. Because I may have already had movers scheduled for this weekend. You what? I was confident, he said, completely unrepentant. You call it presumptuous. I call it efficient. I laughed through my tears. You're impossible. And you love me anyway. I really, really do. We stayed at dinner late into the evening, talking about the future. About the company's expansion plans. About Diana's new relationship. About Victoria's recovery from her trauma. About the testimony we'd given at trial and how cathartic it had been to watch justice finally prevail. But mostly, we talked about us. About building a life together that was equal parts professional partnership and personal joy. About how a single accidental text message had changed everything. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd sent that text to Chelsea instead of me? Nicholas asked as we walked through Central Park afterward, his arm around my shoulders. All the time, I admitted. You'd still be running a company riddled with conspirators. Diana would still be a pariah. Lawrence would probably still be alive, but Richard and Monica would still be destroying everything you built. And we never would have met. Not really. I'd still be the Ice King, and you'd still be the invisible assistant. He pulled me closer. That text message saved my company. But more than that, it gave me you. It gave me my life back, I said softly. My career, my purpose, my confidence. And you. We stopped under a street lamp, the city glittering around us, and he kissed me slow and sweet. Not urgent like in his office. Not passionate like that first kiss in the executive suite. Just tender. Full of promise and future and love. I'm going to marry you someday, he whispered against my lips. Fair warning. Is that a threat or a promise? Both. I smiled, pulling him down for another kiss. Good. 3 months ago, I'd been a disaster assistant with a destroyed career and no hope for the future. Now I was the CFO of a billion-dollar company, living with a man I loved, part of a team rebuilding an empire with integrity and purpose. And it had all started with one accidental text message. The best accident of my entire life. 1 year later, I stood in the conference room of Morgan Industries, looking out at the view that had once intimidated me so much. Manhattan stretched before me, glittering and alive, full of possibility. Behind me, the room was filled with people, employees, board members, journalists, all gathered for what Nicholas had mysteriously called an important announcement. Diana squeezed my shoulder. Nervous. Terrified, I admitted. What if they hate it? They won't hate it. She smiled. Trust me. Nicholas entered the room, and the chatter died down. He'd lost the Ice King persona entirely over the past year. He smiled more, laughed more, was more human in every way. But he still commanded a room with effortless authority. Thank you all for coming, he began. A year ago, this company was on the brink of destruction. A decade-long conspiracy had infiltrated our highest levels. We lost employees, trust, and very nearly our integrity. He paused, his eyes finding mine across the room. But one accidental text message changed everything. Laughter rippled through the crowd. The story had become legendary. The disaster assistant who'd exposed corporate espionage by complaining about her boss to the wrong person. Today, I'm proud to announce several initiatives that will ensure Morgan Industries continues to operate with the transparency and integrity we've fought so hard to restore. Nicholas gestured to Diana. First, our COO Diana Harrington has developed an ethics oversight program that will be implemented across all departments. Independent auditors, anonymous reporting channels, and regular reviews to prevent anything like this from happening again. Applause filled the room. Diana stepped forward to explain the program in detail, and I watched her with pride. She'd come so far, from convicted felon to respected executive, from pariah to partner. And her relationship with Elena had blossomed into something beautiful. They'd moved in together last month, and Diana had never looked happier. Second, Nicholas continued when Diana finished, we're launching the Bennett Fellowship Program. My head snapped up. The what? Nicholas smiled at my obvious surprise. Named after our CFO Sophie Bennett, this fellowship will provide opportunities for young forensic accountants who faced career setbacks or wrongful termination. We'll offer them positions at Morgan Industries, mentorship from Sophie herself, and the chance to rebuild their careers with a company that values integrity over politics. The room erupted in applause again. I felt tears prickling my eyes. A fellowship program. In my name. Helping people who'd faced the same discrimination and career destruction I had. Sophie, would you like to say a few words? Nicholas asked. I made my way to the front of the room on shaky legs. Public speaking had never been my strength, but over the past year, I'd learned that sometimes you had to do things that terrified you. When I accidentally texted Nicholas Morgan a year ago, I began, and laughter rippled through the room. I thought my life was over. I was convinced I'd be fired, possibly sued, definitely humiliated. Instead, that mistake became the best thing that ever happened to me. I looked at the faces in the crowd, employees who trusted us through scandal, board members who'd helped rebuild, journalists who told our story fairly. I learned that sometimes our biggest mistakes lead to our greatest opportunities. That integrity matters more than playing it safe. That standing up for what's right is worth the risk, even when it costs you everything. My eyes found Nicholas. And that the people who seem coldest often have the warmest hearts. You just have to be brave enough to look beneath the surface. Nicholas smiled at me, and the love in his eyes made my breath catch even after a year together. The Bennett Fellowship Program isn't about me, I continued. It's about everyone who's been told they're not good enough, who's been blamed for someone else's crimes, who's been pushed out of their careers for doing the right thing. This is for you. This company is for you. And I promise that as long as I'm CFO, Morgan Industries will be a place where integrity matters more than politics, where truth matters more than convenience, and where mistakes, even the big, embarrassing, accidentally texting your boss kind, can become opportunities for growth. The applause was thunderous. As I stepped back, Victoria appeared at my side with champagne for the toast. "That was beautiful," she whispered. "Also, you're totally crying." "Shut up," I said affectionately, wiping my eyes. Nicholas raised his glass. "To Morgan Industries. To integrity. To second chances. And to the disaster assistant who saved us all. To Sophie." The room chorused and we drank. The celebration lasted hours. Employees congratulated me on the fellowship program. Board members discussed expansion plans. Journalists asked for interviews about our remarkable turnaround story. But eventually, as the sun set over Manhattan, Nicholas found me standing alone by the windows, watching the city light up. "Hey," he said softly, sliding his arms around my waist from behind. "You okay?" "Better than okay." I leaned back against him. A year ago, I was fetching coffee and organizing staples. Now I have a fellowship program named after me. It's surreal. You earned it. Every bit of it. He kissed my temple. Though I have to say, I miss the coffee-stained blouses and the panicked expressions. "No, you don't." "Okay, I don't. But I do love watching you be brilliant and confident and exactly who you were always meant to be." He turned me to face him. "I have something for you. Nicholas, you already gave me a fellowship program. This is different." He pulled out a small velvet box, and my heart stopped. "Sophie Bennett, a year ago you sent me a text message calling me an insufferable ice king. You were completely right, by the way. I was cold. Closed off. Convinced that keeping people at a distance was the only way to protect myself. Nicholas. But you crashed into my life like a hurricane wrapped in a coffee-stained blouse, and you melted every defense I had. You're brilliant and chaotic and brave, and you make me laugh even when I'm having the worst day. You've given me back my company, my best friend, and most importantly, you've given me a reason to be warm instead of cold." He opened the box, revealing a ring that sparkled in the city lights, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, unique and perfect. "Marry me, Sophie. Let me spend the rest of my life being the man you made me want to become. Let me support your brilliance and clean up your coffee spills and accidentally text you embarrassing things just to make you laugh." His voice was thick with emotion. "Let me love you for the rest of our lives." Tears streamed down my face. Yes. God, yes. Obviously, yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he kissed me, soft and sweet and full of promise, while Manhattan glittered around us and the company we'd saved together celebrated in the background. "I love you," I whispered against his lips. "My insufferable ice king." "I love you too," he said. "My disaster CFO." We stood there as the stars came out, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way, who'd survived conspiracy and danger and nearly losing everything, who'd built something beautiful out of chaos. And it had all started with one accidental text message. 6 months later, the wedding. The venue was perfect, a restored mansion in the Hamptons, all elegant simplicity and natural light. Diana stood beside me as my maid of honor, looking stunning in deep blue. Chelsea was there too, crying happy tears and reminding everyone that she'd called it from day one. Victoria had helped plan everything with her characteristic efficiency, turning what could have been a stressful experience into something magical. Elena, Diana's now fiancée, had contributed her literature professor's eye for beautiful words to the ceremony. And Nicholas stood at the altar, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. The ceremony was small, intimate. Just the people who mattered most. As I walked down the aisle, I thought about everything that had led us here. The accidental text. The conspiracy. The danger. The fear. The triumph. The love that had grown from the most unlikely beginning. We're gathered here today, the officiant began, to celebrate the marriage of Nicholas Morgan and Sophie Bennett, a couple whose love story proves that sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the greatest blessings. I caught Nicholas's eye and smiled. He smiled back, and it wasn't the smile of the Ice King. It was warm and real and completely, perfectly him. When we exchanged vows, I spoke from the heart. Nicholas, you gave me back everything I thought I'd lost. My career, my purpose, my confidence. But more than that, you gave me a partnership built on trust and respect. You see me not as a disaster or a mistake, but as someone capable of extraordinary things. You make me braver, stronger, better. And I promise to spend the rest of our lives being the person you believed I could be, loving you with everything I have, and occasionally sending you inappropriate text messages just to keep things interesting. Laughter filled the venue, and Nicholas's eyes were bright with unshed tears. His vows were equally perfect. Sophie, you crashed into my life and changed everything. You taught me that being vulnerable isn't weakness, that trust is worth the risk, and that love is the most important business decision I'll ever make. You're brilliant and brave, and you make every day an adventure. I promise to support your dreams, celebrate your victories, clean up your coffee spills, and love you fiercely for all the days of my life. When the officiant pronounced us married, Nicholas pulled me into a kiss that felt like coming home and starting an adventure all at once. As we walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, I caught sight of my phone on the gift table, the same phone that had sent that fateful text a year and a half ago. My whole life had changed because of one mistake. One accident. One moment of chaos that had led to everything beautiful. At the reception, Diana stood to give a toast. I've known Nicholas for over 17 years, she began. I've seen him build empires, survive betrayal, and lose everything just to rebuild it all stronger than before. But I've never seen him as happy as he is with Sophie. She raised her glass. To Sophie, the woman who proved that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Who showed us all that integrity, courage, and a little bit of chaos can change the world. And who saved not just a company, but the heart of a man who'd forgotten how to feel. To Sophie and Nicholas, everyone chorused. Later, as Nicholas and I danced under strings of lights while stars sparkled overhead, he whispered in my ear, "Any regrets?" About what? Accidentally texting your boss and uncovering a massive conspiracy that nearly got us both killed? I pretended to think about it. Nope. Best accident ever. You. Only that it took an accidental text message for me to notice you. He pulled me closer. I should have seen how brilliant you were from day one. You were too busy being an insufferable Ice King. Fair point. He kissed my forehead. Thank you for melting me, disaster assistant. Thank you for seeing past the disasters, Ice King. We danced until the stars faded and the sun started to rise, surrounded by everyone who'd fought beside us, supported us, and believed in us. And as the first light of dawn painted the sky gold and pink, I realized something profound. Life isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about what you do when you make them. It's about finding courage in chaos, building trust through vulnerability, and discovering that sometimes the wrong text sent to the wrong person at the wrong time can lead to everything right. So, my beautiful people, we've reached the end of this incredible journey. I need to know something from you right now. What did you learn from Sophie and Nicholas's story? Drop it in the comments below. Did it teach you about courage? About second chances? About how our biggest mistakes can become our greatest blessings? I genuinely want to hear your thoughts. And here's the brutally honest question I need you to answer. What did you think of this story? Did it keep you on the edge of your seat? Did the romance make your heart race? Were you shocked by the twists? Give me your raw, unfiltered opinion. Don't hold back, I can take it. One more thing, how do you feel about the voice I used to tell this story? The way Sophie shared her journey with you, did it feel real? Did it pull you in? Or would you have wanted something different? Your feedback matters to me more than you know. If you've made it this far, If you've been with Sophie from that panic text message all the way to her wedding day, then you're part of this community. You're part of the family that believes in stories about brave, messy, beautiful people finding their way through chaos to something extraordinary. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Because I have so many more stories to share with you. Stories about love and courage and conspiracy and triumph. Stories about people who refuse to give up, who fight for what's right, who find unexpected happiness in the most unlikely places. Drop a comment telling me what you learned from this story. Your brutally honest opinion about the video. Whether you liked the storytelling voice. And where you're watching from. I love knowing where my amazing viewers are tuning in. Sophie's journey started with an accidental text message. But your journey with this channel? That's just beginning. Until next time, keep being brave, keep taking risks, and remember, sometimes your biggest mistakes lead to your greatest adventures. This is your storyteller, signing off. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear a story about second chances and unexpected love. See you in the next one, beautiful souls.